Hey guys, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to see an amazing what-if story. But before we start, it's just a humble request that if you are new here, please subscribe because it actually motivates me a lot to post more. Also, the stories on my channel are fully written by me, so if you have any suggestions for what-if stories, please let me know below the comment section. Now, without any further delay, let's start. What if Harry Potter learned Asgardian magic? The room of requirement seals behind them with a soft thud. Candles spit. Dust hangs in the air. Wands rise as the crowd settles into a wide ring. Ron counts heads. Hermione scans the chalkboard she set up earlier. Ginny rolls her shoulders, loose and ready. Harry tastes metal on his tongue and cannot place why. Same drill, he says. Stun. Shield. Move your feet. He splits the room into pairs. Spells start low, then build. Red light snaps across the space. Shields bloom. Boots scrape stone. Harry walks the line, calling small fixes. Lower your elbow. Breathe. You are not throwing a punch. You are placing a spell. Ginny trades with Neville. Her timing is sharp and quick. She works the room like a chaser, always in motion. Hermione pushes Seamus back with a clean disarm. Ron laughs once, proud and loud, then bites it back when Harry gives him a look. The door slides again. Harry does not ask for it. The room should not obey a stranger. Draco Malfoy steps through as if he belongs here. No swagger tonight. His face is set and pale. His wand is already in his hand. There is no warning. A silent curse coils from his wand. No sound. No color. Only a shimmer in the air that lines up with Ginny's chest. Harry moves before he thinks. He does not reach for a spell. He does not even reach for his wand. Something inside him tears open like old fabric. Light erupts. Not gold. Not red. A band of many colors that burn the air. The room pops as if the pressure drops. Ozone surges. Stone screams. The shimmer in the air vanishes with a crack. The back wall splits from floor to ceiling. Candles blow out and then relight on their own as if afraid to be seen. Ginny is still standing. The curse never touches her. Harry is on his knees. His ears ring. His hands shake. Heat surges up his arms and fades to cold. He sees the room and 100 tiny shapes in it, as if every grain of dust has a name. The floor tilts. Breathing hurts. Harry, Ron says. Ron is at his side, voice tight. Look at me. I am fine, Harry says. Comes out thin. Hermione kneels. She holds up a sheet of parchment and the ink on it swims. There is residue everywhere. I have never seen anything like this. It is not spell residue. It does not act like a charm or a curse. It is more like raw force. Ginny crouches in front of him. Her hair sticks to her cheek with sweat. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Good. She puts his wand back into his palm. Hold on to this. Breathe with me. The door is still open. Draco stands inside the threshold, eyes wide. He did not plan for this. He tightens his grip and then loosens it, wrist shaking. He backs out and flees. The ring of students breaks. Questions flood in and then die when Harry presses his fingers to his temple and winces. Ron squeezes his shoulder. Hermione turns the parchment into a chart, then back again, then tears it clean down the middle and scrubs a hand over her eyes. A soft hiss of steam rises from the split in the wall. The smell of rain rides the air where there is no rain. A phoenix trill moves through the room. Everyone looks up even though there is no bird. A voice follows. Mr. Potter. My office. Now, the room of requirement opens a path like a hall of quiet stone. Harry stands. His legs wobble. Ron goes to move with him. Harry shakes his head once. I have to go. Ron hates it but nods. We will wait. Ginny meets his eyes. Come back. He does not promise. He leaves. The castle is dark in the long way to the spiral stair. The gargoyle does not ask for a password. It jumps aside as if pushed by a tide. Dumbledore waits by the window. No tea tonight. No lemon drops. His hands rest on the desk. His eyes are not twinkling. They are old and steady. Sit. Harry sits. The chair is too soft. He sits forward to keep from sinking. Tell me what you felt, Dumbledore says. Heat. then cold. A ringing in my ears. Everything was bright. I did not cast anything. It just happened. It felt like the room was a skin, and I pushed through it. Dumbledore closes his eyes for a long breath. I had hoped this day would not come until you were ready. I was wrong to hope. Ready for what? For a truth I should have shared years ago. Dumbledore opens a drawer. He sets a small bundle on the desk. He does not unwrap it. Not yet. Your mother was gifted with a form of magic that does not fit the school you and I know. She carried markings with her when she died that I did not understand. After Godric's Hollow, I found lines carved into the lintel over your nursery door. Not Latin. Not anything our books teach. Bathilda Bagshot had notes in her attic that described old northern marks. She called them gifts from a tree that joins many worlds. St. Mungo's once ran a quiet scan on you after a strange surge when you were a child. The healer recorded a pattern in your aura that did not match our charts. I asked him to seal the file. I feared what it would mean. Harry swallows. His mouth is dry. You knew. I knew enough to be afraid for you, Dumbledore says. I did not know how to teach it. What I have seen of it is not civilized or polite. It is old. It is vast. It does not answer to the rules we set in classrooms. Harry sits back until the chair forces him forward again. His hands find the arms and hold on. So you hid it, he says. I did. I thought I could buy you time. Time to grow. Time to be a boy. Time to fight one war before another found you. Dumbledore looks up, and his voice goes soft. I am sorry. Why me? Your eyes, Dumbledore says. We have spoken about them. They match your mother's. They are also a mark I have seen in an old sketch from Bathilda's notes. A serpent coil set into a circle of marks. It is a sign of a line that comes from cold places and old stories. Call it Asgard if you wish. Call it the World Tree if you prefer another word. I believe you were born with a thread that runs into that place. Harry lets silence sit. Presses on his chest. What happened in the room? He asks. You reached for that thread, Dumbledore says. It reached back. Harry breathes in through his nose. The office smells like wax and old wood. The ringing in his ears fades. Does this help me win? He says. Flat. No rise. Dumbledore does not smile. It can save your life if you learn to carry it without breaking yourself. It can save others if you learn to aim it. It can also burn through every rule we use to keep our world hidden. If you treat it like a wand, it will punish you. If you treat it like a god, it will punish you. You must treat it like a storm that you can anchor. I do not want a storm inside me. I know. Dumbledore unwraps the bundle. A shard of dark stone lies on the cloth. Thin lines cross its surface. The lines glow faint blue when the window light touches them, then fade. This is your focus, Dumbledore says. It is not a wand. It is a weight and a door. It was cut from a stone that fell from the sky. The runes on it were placed before Hogwarts stood. It will not make you stronger. It will make the strength you already have safer to hold. Harry does not touch it. What does it cost? He says. Everything like this asks for cost, Dumbledore says. If you overdraw, your hands will shake. Your vision may blur. Your memory may skip. Your body will feel empty in a way that food and sleep do not fix. You will need a word that ends a surge if you begin to slip. I suggest you pick it now and tell the people you trust. Harry looks at the stone. The thin blue lines look like cracks filled with ice. Quiet, he says. Good, Dumbledore says. Say it when you feel a rise. They will say it back to bring you down. Set that rule in your mind. Set another. You will not use this power to correct the ordinary pains of the world. Magic for magic. The other things we leave to ordinary hands. Harry nods once. Take it, Dumbledore says. He does. The stone is cold, then colder. The cold spreads into his palm and up his wrist. He holds his breath and waits for it to stop. It stops a moment later. The room grows sharper. The ticking of a small clock beats in the corner. A draft slides under the window frame. The stone is heavy in a way that feels true. How do I train it? Harry says. In a place where stone remembers, Dumbledore says. There is a chamber under the foundations. The runes there are not words to recite. They are shapes that mark how the world joins. You will learn to sing them and to place them with your hand. Hermione may read the marks with you. She will want to fit them into charts. She must also learn when to set the quill down. Ron will watch you breathe. He will tell you to stop when your mouth goes white and your hand begins to curl. Ginny will stand near you when the air starts to bend. You will look at her face and it will bring you back. Harry looks up. You keep saying will, as if it is decided. It is decided only if you choose it, Dumbledore says. You can walk away from this office and refuse the stone. Harry almost laughs. It is too dry to come out as sound. Voldemort will not wait, he says. He hates the way his shoulders pull in when he speaks the name. If this is in me, then it is already here. I cannot pretend it is not. Dumbledore nods. Then we begin with rules. No draws when you are angry. No draws when you are tired. No draws without someone in the room who can speak your word. You will eat. You will sleep. You will tell me if your hearing changes or if you wake with blood on your lip. We will test a small pull tomorrow in the lower chamber. We will aim it at stone and see if the stone holds. Harry squeezes the shard. The glow lines answer his grip with a faint pulse. What about Draco? Harry asks. He came into the room. He fired at Ginny. I will handle Draco, Dumbledore says. He is already drowning in orders he cannot carry. Tonight he ran a test. He will not run another in that room. Did you send him? No, Dumbledore says. There are many hands at work. Not all of them answer to me. Harry stares at the desk. His jaw sets. You said my mother had marks in the house. I did. You said a healer saw something he did not understand. I did. And you sealed it. I did. Dumbledore's voice thins. I wanted your childhood to be your own. I chose to hide a part of you so that you could breathe without it for a while. That choice belongs to me. So does the fault. Harry holds the shard until his fingers hurt. His breath goes short. He loosens his grip. What else? He says. What are you not telling me? There is more I do not know than I know, Dumbledore says. But I will not hide what I have. Bathilda kept a scrap that describes a serpent that circles a tree. Some lines suggest a child with green eyes marked by that coil. It is not proof. It is a hint. Enough to make me watch. Not enough to guide you. The rest we will learn as we go. Silence again. The clock ticks. Harry stands. His legs are steadier now. The cold in his palm has settled into a firm weight. May I go? He asks. You may. One more thing. Dumbledore opens a second drawer and sets a small leather book on the desk. No title. No decoration. This is not for spells. It is for how you slept and what you felt when you drew. When you felt hungry and when you felt hollow. You will keep it honest. Bring it to me each week. I will read every line. Harry does not take the book. The band symbol rule in his own head would have liked a line to separate each day. He will write in plain blocks instead. He nods. I will write. Dumbledore studies his face. You are angry. Yes, you have a right to be. That does not help. No, Dumbledore says. It does not. He looks at the shard in Harry's hand. It will not be gentle with you. You must be gentle with others to keep it from teaching you cruelty. Harry turns for the door. Harry, he stops. Quiet, Dumbledore says. Harry breathes out. The word softens his shoulders by a small degree. Tell Ron. Tell Hermione. Tell Ginny. Dumbledore says. Let them say it when you cannot hear yourself. I will. He leaves the office. The corridor air is colder than before. Steps echo. Far below, a portrait coughs and goes back to sleep. The castle smells like damp stone and old smoke. He holds the shard in his right hand and keeps his left open at his side so he does not clench. At the end of the hall, the stairs spill him out near a window. He stops. The glass shows a faint smear of his face and the green of his eyes is too bright in the reflection. He looks away. The gargoyle closes behind him. Feet move quick to meet him. Ron first. Hermione behind, jaw set. Ginny last, gaze fixed on his hands. You are pale, Ron says. I will live, Harry says. Hermione studies the shard. What is that? A focus, Harry says. Not a wand. Do you have rules? Hermione asks. Yes, good. She nods once and blows out a breath. We will write them down and follow them. Ron leans in. What is the word? Quiet, Harry says. Ron says it back low. Quiet. Ginny steps closer. She reaches without touching the shard. Does it hurt? A little. Can you walk? Yes. Then we go back, she says. You will show your face. No one will think you broke. They will see you stand. Harry looks at them. Ron with his fists jammed into his pockets because he is trying not to grab Harry by the arm and carry him. Hermione with ink on her fingers and a dozen plans already forming. Ginny with her chin up and her mouth set. He nods. They move. Back in the room of requirement, the crack in the wall shines like a wound. The room smells of ozone and warm stone. Neville has kept everyone calm. Luna has drawn a circle on the floor with chalk. No lines. No marks. Just a place to stand. Harry steps into the circle. He does not speak. He lifts the shard an inch. The blue lines do not light. He lowers it again. I am fine, he says. He makes himself breathe. We will try again soon. Not tonight. Good, Hermione says, and her voice shakes only a little. We will study. We will ask the right questions. We will not guess out loud where anyone can hear us. Ron bumps his shoulder into Harry's. We will also eat. You look like you could pass out inside a cupboard. Ginny smiles without showing teeth. Come on, then. They file out. The door closes. The room holds its crack and its silence. In the corridor, Harry slows. The weight in his hand is steady and cold. He thinks of the nursery lintel and a healer's sealed chart and Bathilda's notes stacked in a dusty attic. He thinks of Draco's face at the door. He thinks of the way the wall split like old bark. He does not know if the shard in his palm is a key or a chain. He breathes in. He speaks the word to himself once. Quiet. The word settles him for a moment. Then the calm passes. He keeps walking. The castle breathes with him in small drafts and faint groans from the old stones. He does not look back. The stairwell down to the foundations is narrow and cold. Dumbledore walks ahead with his wand lit. The light pools on wet stone and pulls shadows out of the cracks. The air smells like iron and old water. A low door waits at the bottom. Dumbledore breathes out and touches the lintel with 2 fingers. The wood answers with a faint blue trace that matches the shard in Harry's palm. Here, Dumbledore says. Stone remembers. Inside is a round chamber. The floor is bare rock. The walls carry shallow cuts that are not words in any classroom sense. They are angles and circles and lines that bend in ways that make Harry's eyes want to slide away. Hermione stops just inside the door. She takes it in with a quick scan and then a second, slower one. Ink and parchment are already in her hands. Ron follows and stays close to Harry's shoulder. Dumbledore sets a small bell on a flat stone. If you begin to drift, I will ring this. You will stop at the bell. If you do not, Ron says the word. Hermione writes what you felt. We do not guess. We record. Harry nods. The shard is heavy today. He has not slept much. Eat, Hermione says, and presses a piece of toffee into his hand. Sugar now. It will help if you flag. He eats. It sticks to his teeth and the sweetness hits hard. He feels less hollow. Dumbledore points to a circle near the back wall. Stand there. Say the word and breathe until it feels like a true breath. Then take the smallest draw you can. Enough to light a match. Nothing more. Harry steps into the circle. The stone is smooth under his boots. He closes his eyes and brings the shard up in front of his chest. His throat is tight. Quiet, he says. The word settles something. He breathes in through his nose, out through his mouth. The air is cooler at the floor than at his face. He notes it and lets it pass. Now, Dumbledore says. Harry thinks of nothing and then of a single mark Dumbledore showed him in the book upstairs. A short line. A curve. Point where they meet. He does not know the name. He does not need it. He thinks of the shape and sings one soft note under his breath because Dumbledore told him sound matters. The shard replies with a thin thread of blue. It does not jump. It eases forward like the first drip from a tap. His arm prickles. The air in front of his hand moves as if the room inhaled. Enough, Dumbledore says gentle. Harry stops. The blue thread fades. His fingers tingle. His heart runs faster and then slows. Hermione writes without looking up. Initial draw. Blue thread. Air shift. No obvious pain. Color stable. Pupil response steady. Ron watches Harry's face. You are a bit gray at the edges, mate. Breathe. Harry breathes. The room seems a little larger than it did. He waits for the usual ringing. It does not come. That feels like a win. Again, Dumbledore says. This time place it on the stone in front of you. Make a small shield. Think of the shape as a bowl that will catch rain. Harry thinks bowl. He shapes the line and curve in his mind and lets the shard sip power. The air tightens up around his hand and hardens at knee height. He sees a faint round and it feels like a held breath made into something you can touch. That, Dumbledore says. Hold for 3 counts. 1, Ron says. 2, Hermione says. 3, Dumbledore says. Release. Harry releases. The round softens and goes. His hand aches in the base of the thumb. He flexes it. Hermione writes. Shield held for 3. No visible strain on the stone. Subject reports ache in thumb base. We keep the draw this small for days, Dumbledore says. You will hate the pace. Accept it. The body must learn the path before you ask it to sprint. Harry nods. He wants to do more. He also remembers the crack in the wall and the way his legs trembled and the taste of metal on his tongue. He swallows and lets the want fade. They repeat the draw 4 more times. Small bowl. Hold. Release. On the 5th, the round skews and a thin blue arc licks the rock. It hisses. Harry jerks back and swears. Ron is already stepping in. Quiet. The word pulls Harry back from the rise. He draws a slow breath. The urge to push more dies down. Stop there, Dumbledore says. He rings the bell once. The note bounces off the stone and fades. The anchor is good. We do not tempt fatigue. Hermione comes close and looks at his hand without touching it. Any numbness, pins and needles. No loss. Vision, clear, ringing. Not this time. Good, she says. She writes all of it down and sets the quill aside with a firm nod, as if to tell herself that data is enough for now. They sit on the low ledge that runs around the wall. The chamber hums in the quiet, a tiny vibration at the edge of hearing. Ron hands Harry water. Do not look at me like that, Harry says after a minute. Like what? Like you want to carry me on your back up the stairs. Ron snorts. I could if I had to. Hermione stares at the marks on the wall. The shapes are not a language. They are more like diagrams of pressure and flow. Lines for how force moves. Patterns for how it pools. Meaning, Harry says. She chews her lip. Meaning I cannot translate them in the normal way. I can map them. I can compare the ones that make a shield to the ones that make a bolt. I can chart the cost against the shape. But if I try to build a grammar, I will be making it up. You do not like that, Ron says. No, she says. I do not. She looks at Harry and her voice softens. I will still help you. I will keep you safe by knowing everything I can about the room and the way you move in it. I will write rules you can follow when you are tired. But I will not pretend I can tame the marks with a dictionary. Thank you, Harry says. Dumbledore stands and stretches his back. That is the right fight to pick, Miss Granger. We do not force the world to be neat. We find the parts of it we can hold. They climb back toward the light after another short set of draws. Harry's legs are soft by the time they reach the main hall. He does not like how much that shows. Hermione touches his sleeve. Food. No arguments. They eat in a small alcove near the 5th floor. Toast with butter. Tea with extra sugar. Ron steals the second piece and Harry does not complain because the warmth in his stomach feels like a kind of safety. Ginny finds them there. She does not ask for a summary. She sits close and rests her forearm against Harry's for a second and then pulls back. Her eyes ask the question anyway. Small draws, Harry says. No crash. Good. She leans back against the stone. Do you need quiet or noise? Noise, he says. Ron supplies it. He tells a story about Seamus setting a sleeve on fire in 3rd year and swears he did not laugh. Hermione corrects his verb tense. Ginny smiles without showing teeth. When Ron goes to find Neville and Hermione wanders away muttering about treaty language that might apply to school wards, Ginny stays. Walk, she says. They take the long circuit past empty classrooms and old suits of armor. The castle smells like dust and oil. Their steps click on the flagstones. A portrait of a woman in a high collar pretends not to watch them. Say the word, Ginny says. I want to hear how it sounds when you are not in a room with Dumbledore. Quiet, she tries it. Quiet, she nods. It feels right. He glances at her. You are not afraid. I am, she says. But I am not afraid of you. She stops and faces him. I saw your face when the wall split. You were not pleased with yourself. He looks down. I was not anything. I was trying not to come apart. Then we give you things to hold, she says. Rules, food, sleep, people. He huffs a breath that might be a laugh. Practical, the only kind that works. She steps closer. If you start to rise with me, I will say the word. You will stop. I will not feel insulted. I will feel trusted. Do you understand? Yes, she kisses him. It is steady and light. No rush. His hand twitches, and for a half-second the shard in his pocket answers with a faint cool pulse. He flinches back and shakes his head. Quiet, she says at once, and rests her palm over his chest without pressure. Look at me. Not at the noise. He breathes and it passes. Relief loosens the muscles at the base of his skull. Sorry, he says. Do not be, she says. We will learn together. She links their fingers for a moment and then lets go. Come on. If Ron sees us, he will make a face and then talk about it for days. They part at the stair that leads toward the common room. Harry goes the other way. He needs to think without talking. He finds the unused classroom with the cracked window and sits on the sill. The grounds glow with late light. The lake is a sheet of dark glass. He takes the shard out and balances it on his palm. The blue lines are dull in the dim. Small draw, he tells himself. One thread. Pull. Hold. Let go. He breathes in and lets the tiniest thread rise. It pools above his hand and makes the air wrinkle. He holds for one count and lets it go. No ache. No ring. Again, a second thread. It holds for two. He releases. The third. It holds for three. He should stop. He knows he should. The quiet in the room invites him to test the edge. He thinks of the wall and of Ginny's hand and of Dumbledore's bell and the way the note hung in the stone. He thinks of Draco at the door and the look in his eyes when the light hit. Something moves under the surface of his thoughts. A coil. A slow turn. It is not a sound, but it feels like a voice. Little one, it says without words. You are wasting time with thimbles and cups. Harry freezes. The shard is cold and the cold spreads into his wrist. He does not answer. He keeps his face still and his breath even. The coil turns again. You can take and you will not be empty. Stop fearing the pull. Let the current run and be done with it. He hears his own blood in his ears. The window glass hums. He closes his fingers around the shard until it hurts. Quiet, he says. The coil pauses. It is not gone. It waits. It is patient. He stands. The room feels smaller. He puts the shard away and flexes his hand. The pull tugs once, sharp and sweet. He steps back until his calves hit a desk and sits down hard. Not today, he says under his breath. The coil slides away slow. It leaves a faint taste like copper on the back of his tongue. A knock hits the door frame. Ron leans in. You all right? Yes, you went gray again. Harry stands. He is unsteady for a step and then it passes. Tea is good. They go to the common room. The fire is low. The noise is just enough. Hermione is there with a short stack of open books, but they are not rune dictionaries. They are law. I cannot make a grammar for the marks, she says without looking up. So I will make rules for the people who want to put you in a box. She taps a page. This will help us stall the ICW when they try to overreach. Ron grins at Harry like he has won a small bet. I told you she would find a way to win with quills. Harry relaxes a fraction and drinks. The tea is too sweet and perfect. Later, when the room empties and the fire drops to coals, he goes to bed and tries to sleep. His hands feel heavy on the blanket. The shard sits on the table where he can see it if he opens his eyes. He does not dream. He floats near sleep, and then he is in the lack between thoughts, and the coil is there again, closer. You will break your bones on the world if you keep trying to save it like this, it says without sound. Let me teach you the other way. Harry's chest tightens. He does not move. He thinks of the word. He thinks of Ginny's voice saying it. He thinks of Ron's blunt hand on his shoulder. He thinks of Hermione's lined page that says we write what is real and we do not pretend. Quiet, he says in his head. The coil withdraws by inches. It leaves a promise behind. We will speak again. He opens his eyes. The ceiling is a pale blur. He counts 3 breaths and sits up. He writes a line in Dumbledore's book with the stub of a pencil. Woke to the pull. Said the word. It eased. No ring. Hands steady. He sets the pencil down and lies back. His eyes sting. He stares at the dark until it runs out of ways to frighten him. Morning comes like a draft through the curtains. He dresses slow and goes down early. The hall is near empty. Toast. Eggs. Tea. He eats without thinking about it. It helps. Dumbledore finds him at the end of the table. No fuss. He does not sit. He rests one hand on the wood. How was your night? Dumbledore asks. I heard it, Harry says. Not with my ears. What did you do? I said the word. Good. Dumbledore looks very tired. We will add a rule. No draws when you are alone. Not until you are bored by how slow we are being. Harry wants to say he cannot afford slow. He wants to say Voldemort will not wait for boredom. He knows all of that is true, and he also knows what the wall looked like. Fine, he says. Today we will move from bowl to bind. Dumbledore says. Nothing violent. A wrist hold on empty air. You will build the shape like a loop that closes gently. If it bites, you stop. You will keep food in your pocket. You will drink. You will listen to Ron when he says you look gray. Harry nods once. Dumbledore steps back. Miss Weasley will be near the chamber today. If you feel the rise and cannot stop it yourself, you will look at her face. Is that a lesson? Harry asks. It is an anchor, Dumbledore says. You have work to do in both worlds. The human one needs you as much as the other does. The hall fills. Voices rise. Trays clatter. The normal noise of school life wraps around the table. Harry feels both inside it and outside it at the same time. He touches the shard in his pocket. The blue lines do not light. He breathes in and lets the smell of toast and steam and parchment settle him a little. Ron drops into the seat across from him with a grin that is too wide to be real and therefore doing its job. Training, then. After that we nick an hour to do nothing. Non-magical practice. Chess, maybe. Or a nap you call chess. Hermione sits and slides a page across the table. Sign this. It says you understand you are under no obligation to answer questions from anyone not named Dumbledore, Minerva, or Poppy. If an outsider tries to corner you, you say you will have a representative present. Harry signs. His hand shakes and he presses the paper flat so it does not show. Ginny walks past behind him and lets her fingers brush his shoulder. He does not turn. He does not need to. They go back down to the chamber. The bell waits on the stone. The marks on the wall are the same as yesterday and still feel like they move when he is not watching. Loop, Dumbledore says. Gentle. Harry steps into the circle. He lifts the shard. He breathes. He thinks of a loop that closes without harm. He sings one note and lets a thread rise. Air tightens at his wrist. He feels the shape click. It wants to be sharper. He keeps it soft. He holds for 2 and lets it go. Good, Dumbledore says. Again, Harry says. They build the loop 3 more times. On the 4th, the shard pulls harder. The coil stirs. The loop whispers that it could stop a heart if he asked for it. The thought makes his stomach turn. Quiet, he says at once. The pull eases. He lets the loop go. He hates how easy it would be to ask for more. Hermione's quill scratches. Ron watches his mouth for the whiteness that gives him away. Dumbledore rings the bell once and the note comes back from the wall. Harry stands still and listens to it die. He has a storm inside him. He also has a word. Today the word is enough. Say it back to me, Dumbledore said. His voice was low. The window light sat dull on the desk. The door was shut. The portraits kept still. Magic for magic problems, Harry said. And the rest. I do not use this to fix people. I do not use it to punish. I do not use it to make life easy. Dumbledore watched his face. Tell me when you will use it. When the other side brings magic to hurt us. When the wall is already moving. When there is no time and no other way. Good, Dumbledore said. He did not smile. Now the hard part. I will name a temptation. You will answer. No speeches. Only what you will do. Harry nodded once. Your uncle, Dumbledore said. Harry looked at the grain in the desk. Walk away, the Auror who sneers and calls you a child. Keep my hands at my sides. A friend who begs you to fix a scar. Tell them no. Find a healer. A room full of reporters. Harry breathed in through his nose. I do not make storms for crowds. A woman who spits on your name. I am not a god, Harry said. His jaw ached. I do not smite people. Dumbledore let the room sit in quiet. I will not always be near you. Minerva will not always be near you. You must carry your own break. I have a word, Harry said. Yes, Dumbledore said. But a word cannot make choices for you. It only slows you long enough that you can choose. Harry's hand curled around the shard in his pocket. The cold bit at his palm. I know. Dumbledore leaned back. The chair creaked. You will still fail. Not with the big choice, I hope. With small ones. You will say a sharp thing you should not have said. You will draw when you are too tired. You will pretend you are fine. When that happens, you will report it. You will not hide it. I do not want this to be mine, Harry said. I know, Dumbledore said. I wanted it to leave you alone. It did not. So we decide what kind of person holds it. Harry stood. He did not trust his voice. The desk swam for a breath, then steadied. Go and walk, Dumbledore said. Find air. When you are ready, go to the club space. Keep it calm today. If anyone presses you, you leave. Harry left the office. The corridor outside was cool and quiet. Stone breathed. His shoes clicked on the floor. He did not go to the tower. He went down to the long west hall where the tapestries were thick and the windows deep. The castle smelled of dust and old wool. He stopped under a window and watched the light creep across the sill. A cupboard door slammed in his head. He was small. He had his knees under his chin. A summer day pressed against the thin wood. Vernon's breath filled the space when the door opened. That face. That grin that was not a grin. Harry's right hand clenched around the shard until pain cleared the picture. Quiet, he said soft. The cupboard in his mind shut again. The lock clicked. The image shrank and went flat. He forced his fingers open. He rubbed the ache out of his palm. He waited until his breath was even. The door at the end of the hall opened. He did not turn. Steps came. 3. Then a pause. Potter, a man said. The voice had a clipped edge. With me. Harry turned. Auror Dawlish stood there with a rolled parchment in one hand and his wand at his belt. His badge caught the light. His mouth was set as if he had been tasting lemons. Headmaster's request, Dawlish said. He waved the parchment. Routine check. Diagnostics. You will not resist. Show me the seal, Harry said. Dawlish flicked the ribbon with one finger. The wax flashed. The crest was real. The words on the page were narrow and vague. Authority sat in the white spaces. Harry folded his arms. I will go to the office. I will not be touched in a corridor. You will do as you are told, Dawlish said. He moved his free hand and a faint film swept from his sleeve like mist. It moved toward Harry's face. There was no sound, no light, only that thin push, too smooth to be a normal charm. Harry felt the press hit the edge of his mind. It was cold. Tried to slide through as if a door was already open. Everything in him snapped tight. He did not call a spell. He did not think a word from class. The shard bit his palm. The floor tilted. Air pulled itself into a shape around his chest and then shoved out. The corridor banged like a closed drum. Pressure hit Dawlish square in the ribs. Armor on a stand behind him crashed. He flew back 2 strides and hit the wall on his shoulder. His wand clattered. The mist ripped apart and turned to nothing. Harry stumbled forward with it. His knees went soft for a blink. He caught the wall with his left hand and forced his fingers to open on the shard with the right. "Quiet," he said. His mouth was dry. His ears rang. The need to push again sang in his arms. "Hold!" A new voice snapped. McGonagall's shoes cut sharp through the echo of the hit. She was already there, wand out but tipped down. "No one moves." Filch leaned around a corner and went white. He backed away. A suit of armor lay on its back. A gauntlet twitched. Dawlish tried to rise. He sat back down hard. His breath wheezed. He pressed a hand to his ribs. His eyes were full of shock and pride and a need to blame someone. "You attacked a student," McGonagall said. Her voice did not rise. It narrowed. "In a school corridor. Without a witness." Dawlish looked at Harry over her shoulder. "He is not a simple student. Do not pretend you are stupid," she said. "You know the rules. You know where you are." Madame Pomfrey ran in with her bag. She went straight to Dawlish, pressed careful fingers against his side, and clicked her tongue. "Bruise. No break. Sit still. Breathe slow." "I need him held," Dawlish said. He tried to push himself up again. Pomfrey put 2 fingers to his collarbone and he stayed down. "No," McGonagall said. She never looked at Dawlish. She looked at Harry. "Mr. Potter." "Report." Harry swallowed. "He said he wanted a check. He pushed something that felt like a film. Tried to get into my head. I reacted. It was not a spell. It was force." "Are you dizzy?" Pomfrey asked. "A little." "Any sharp pain? Any nosebleed?" "No." "Good," she said. She turned and handed Dawlish a small glass. "Drink. It will keep the swelling down." Snape came up the stairs at a steady walk. He took in the mess and said nothing for 3 beats. He looked at Dawlish. He looked at Harry's hands. He looked at the armor on the floor. McGonagall's chin lifted a fraction. "Severus, please inform the headmaster." Snape did not move for a count. He gave Harry a long look that Harry could not read. Then he turned and walked back down the stairs the way he had come. Hermione and Ron arrived together at the other end of the hall. Ron stopped dead when he saw Dawlish on the floor. Hermione's eyes went to Harry's hands and then to his face. "Do not rush," McGonagall said without looking back. "Step. Be calm." They stepped. Ron came to Harry's right side. He stood where he could look at Harry and not at Dawlish. "You are a bit pale." "I know," Harry said. Hermione's voice was even. "Who gave him permission to pull a diagnostic in a corridor?" "Paper," Harry said. The seal looked real. Hermione held out her hand. "Let me see it." McGonagall took the parchment from Dawlish without asking. She passed it to Hermione. Hermione read fast. "This is a blanket note from the minister. It is not a school order. It is not countersigned. It does not allow mind work on private grounds." Dawlish set his jaw. "The minister is not required to request permission from a headmaster. In this building," McGonagall said, "the minister requests permission like everyone else." Snape returned with Dumbledore at his side. Dumbledore looked at Dawlish, then at the armor, then at the ripple lines on the stone as if the corridor remembered the hit. He looked tired. He also looked cold. "John," Dumbledore said, "why are you on my floor?" Dawlish pushed the glass back to Pomfrey and stood. He tried not to show the pull in his side. "Ministerial order. We have reports. The boy is carrying power that can bring a roof down. I attempted a simple screen to keep us all safe. He hit me." "You attempted to walk into his mind," Dumbledore said. "In a school hall. Without me. Without Poppy. Without Minerva. Without even the sense to ask him to sit down first." "It was a light touch," Dawlish said. "There is no light touch with that kind of act," Dumbledore said. His voice did not rise. It froze the air. "You will leave my school. You will take your paper and your pride and you will leave. If the minister wishes to speak to me, he will write a proper letter, and he will come to my office, and he will drink my tea, and he will mind his manners." Dawlish opened his mouth. He closed it. He looked at Harry again and found nothing to hold on to. "Escort," McGonagall said. Snape stepped forward at once. "This way," he said. He did not touch Dawlish. He did not look at Harry. He walked and Dawlish walked with him because there was nothing else to do. Pomfrey picked up the glass and tucked it away. She checked Harry's eyes with a quick light. No dilation. Good. Sit if the floor feels odd later. Come to me if your hand goes numb. Thank you, Harry said. She nodded once and left. Hermione handed the parchment to Dumbledore. This is not legal here. I know, Dumbledore said. He put it in his pocket. We will pretend they forgot their books this morning. It will make it easier to speak without shouting. McGonagall looked Harry over. Do you need to lie down? No, Harry said. He wanted to. He also did not want to do it in front of Dawlish and Snape and the suits of armor. Then you will go to your club space, McGonagall said. You will sit. You will drink water. You will keep your word near at hand. You will not train today. Harry nodded. Ron made a face that meant he wanted to argue on Harry's behalf and would not. Hermione took a breath that meant she would write a letter this hour. They moved. The hall settled. A suit of armor creaked as it refit its own gauntlet with a scrape and a clink. In the club space, the room smelled like chalk and polish. Neville had pulled the tables into a loose circle. Luna had chalked a small ring in one corner. No marks. No runes. Only a place to rest your feet. Harry sat. Ron poured water and set it in front of him. Hermione stood by the door and turned away two curious students with a quiet word. You are shaking, Ron said. I will stop in a minute, Harry said. He pressed the rim of the cup into the table so his hand could rattle without sloshing it. He drank. The cold went down fast and sat heavy in his stomach. That helped. Tell me the pull, Ron said. Right now. Do not dress it up. It takes the shape of a simple fix, Harry said. He pushed at my head. I wanted to push harder and show him what a wall feels like. Ron nodded. That is a simple fix. I did not do it again. I saw that, Ron said. I am proud of you. Harry wanted to shrug that off. He could not. He let it in. Ginny slipped through the door and came straight to him. She did not touch him at first. She looked until she was sure he was in his chair and not halfway to the shard. Quiet, she said. It is already going down, he said. Say it anyway, she said. Quiet, he said. His shoulders eased. The room came into focus in small steps. The mark of chalk on the floor. The way Ron had chewed the end of the cup. The nick in the table near his right hand. Hermione came back from the door. He tried to make it a form, she said. The kind that looks official and says nothing. I will write 3 letters. 1 to the minister. 1 to the board. 1 to Madame Bones. They will all say the same thing. If they want access, they go through the headmaster in daylight. Ron grinned a little. Remind them in every sentence that you can read. That will frighten them more than any wand. Ginny pulled up a chair close to Harry's knee. Look at me. He did. You did not explode him, she said. Thank you, he said. His voice came out dry and that made her smile. Eat this, she said. She handed him a small apple from her pocket. If you pass out, I will blame Ron. Harry ate. The sugar hit slow and steady. It made the room sit right. Dumbledore stood in the doorway a while later. He did not come in at first. He watched them. Then he crossed the threshold and set the parchment on the nearest desk. You are all still here, he said. Where else would we be? Ron said. Good, Dumbledore said. He looked at Harry. You did not chase the second pull. No, you will sleep tonight in your own bed, Dumbledore said. No draws. If you wake to the voice, you use the word, and then you knock on the frame of the door and make a fool of yourself until Ron wakes up and throws a pillow at your head. I can do that, Ron said. I know you can, Dumbledore said. He moved to the far wall and touched the stone as if he could feel the echo of the hit that had moved through it. I will speak with the minister before dinner. Minerva will be with me. Ginny looked at Harry and then at Dumbledore. Will there be more people like him? Yes, Dumbledore said. Some will be less foolish. Some will be more dangerous. We will meet them at doors with tea and unpleasant smiles. You will not be alone with them. He left. The room breathed behind him. Training tomorrow, Hermione said, gentle. Gentle, Harry said. Food now, Ron said. Food now, Harry said. They went to the hall in a small pack. The noise of lunch was normal and loud. Plates clinked. Someone laughed at the wrong time and that helped. Snape did not eat. He stood in a dark classroom 2 floors down and kept the door shut. The room smelled like old paper and a little like singed hair. He had a bottle of something on the desk and he did not touch it. He had seen the push. He had felt it through the stone and through the air the way a body feels thunder in the chest. It did not feel like wand work. It did not feel like a curse. It felt like a hand closing and the world moving to please it. He closed his eyes and brought Lily's face up from where he kept it behind his ribs. He saw the way her hand hung at her side when she was thinking. He saw her eyes when she was angry. He thought of the way a certain patient line of marks had looked on a door frame in a broken house. He had tried every book he trusted and the marks had refused to be domestic. They were older than the ink he trusted and older than the grammar he loved. He had told himself it was noise and grief and bad carpentry. He had been wrong. He opened his eyes and looked at his own hand. His thumb had a pale scar from a glass shard he had not picked all the way out when he was 19. He touched it and felt the ache come up like a mild rain. There was purity in what Potter had thrown. That was the trouble. It was not clean in the way churchmen used the word. It was clean in a way that did not care about any of them. It would wash rind and fruit alike. It would polish bone. Snape did not think of the boy as a boy when he thought like this. He thought of a vessel. He hated that word. He forced himself to think of the boy again. Harry. Stupid hair. Eyes that were not James at all when they were tired. He went to the shelf and pulled a thin book with a cracked spine. Norse charms that most men had written off as stage tricks. Poor work. Bad ink. A note in the margin about a circle that needed a human voice in the right pitch. He set it down and flipped to the page he wanted. He read it twice. It did not help. He closed the book. He would tell Dumbledore that the ministry was not only foolish. It was clumsy in a way that made people die. He would say Lily's name in a way that did not show in his voice. He would not meet Harry's eyes for a few days. He listened to the quiet. He could hear students overhead and the far echo of a door. He could hear wind move in the flue. He laid his fingers on the desk and kept them still. In the hall above, Harry ate bread and stew and forced his jaw to work. He drank water and felt it land. The noise of the room wrapped him and made him feel ordinary for a little while. Ron told him 3 bad jokes. Hermione wrote 2 lines on the back of a napkin that would begin a letter. Ginny bumped his knee and he let himself smile. When the meal ended, when the plates cleared and the benches scraped, he stood without swaying. That counted as a win. They stepped into the corridor. It smelled of stone dust and a little of polish. Sun reached in along the floor. Harry looked both ways. No oars. No paper. Only students and the long stretch of wall. He breathed out and felt the words settle under his tongue like a kept promise. Quiet. The great hall doors swing wide and a draft runs along the flagstones. Conversation thins to a hush. Robes with foreign crests move in a measured line under the floating candles. Aurors at the edges tense without drawing wands. At the front, a tall witch with iron-gray hair and a cold set to her mouth stops 3 paces from the staff table. Dumbledore rises. No smile. His hands fold on the rail. The witch speaks without charm. Her accent is clipped. International Confederation censure. Breach of global secrecy. Emergent entity on school grounds. We will assess at once. McGonagall stands beside Dumbledore, chin high. You will observe our safety rules while you are in this building. The witch nods a fraction that reads as a warning more than a promise. 2 aides set a case on a side table. Scrolls unfurl. Quills scratch. The stack of parchment looks like a wall being built. Students watch and pretend not to. Ron leans toward Harry without moving his head. Do not bother them. Do not talk to them. Do not even breathe near them. Hermione whispers. There is a clause that requires school consent for any testing on minors. I can cite it if they push. Ginny looks at Harry's hands first, then his face. Say the word if you feel the rise. Quiet, Harry says under his breath. The shard in his pocket stays cold. He keeps his shoulders loose and his jaw unclenched. The hall smells of steam and wax and ink. Dumbledore calls the meeting to order with 4 clear words. We will not panic. He speaks of isolation, of safety, of routines that stay in place. He names every rule the school needs to keep. He does not name Harry, the Grey, which watches the students as if cataloging a room full of sparks. She sets teams to walk the grounds and the corridors. She posts an observer near the stair to the headmaster office. She orders a workroom in a side hall for interviews. When she finishes, she turns her eyes back to Dumbledore. Your school will give us a full account of last night. You will have what is proper, Dumbledore says. No more, no less. She does not smile. She moves away. The aides follow, trailing notes like a tail. The hall exhales. Noise returns in a messy rush. Ron says a word Harry does not make him repeat. Hermione is already copying a page of her own and sliding it into a folder. Come on, Ginny says to Harry. We leave the hall before someone decides to be brave and stupid in front of us. They walk the long corridor that feeds the marble stair. 2 robed figures in black stand at a bend and then are gone without a sound. The air feels thinner, like a room where a window has just been closed. Did you see that? Ron says. I saw nothing, Hermione says. Her voice carries the shape of a decision. Harry holds the shape of the decision as well. He does not turn. He does not chase shadows. He keeps the shard where it is and runs a finger along the rough seam of the stone wall as they pass. It grounds him. They cut through a gallery and into a smaller corridor. A prickle crawls up the back of Harry's neck. He glances at a suit of armor. It is pointed the wrong way. It was facing the arch this morning. Now the visor looks into a blank bit of wall. He stops. The others take 2 more steps before they notice. They moved that piece, he says. Or somebody did, Ron says. He shivers. I hate it when empty things do things. Hermione writes 1 line with a sharp stroke. Noted. If the armor turned, so did the ward lines underneath it. That would let someone map the path of any late-night patrol. They keep moving. By afternoon, the castle has new shadows. Empty landings sprout silent watchers who do not blink. Twice, Harry feels a soft brush across his thoughts like a sleeve edge grazing his shoulder. It is not a legitimacy shove. It is more like a surveyor tapping the side of a wall. He says the word each time and the brush retreats. Hermione claims a corner table in the library and spreads treaty language and school charter lines across it in neat stacks. She starts to build a scaffolding of points in careful order. Consent is required for invasive testing and for any inspection inside private rooms. The ICW can lock a campus during an active crisis, but they cannot claim control of the curriculum. They cannot confine a student without cause that survives a simple hearing. They must name a reason for any device they bring through our doors, and we can document and record our own copy of their reports. Ron stares at the headers and then nods like he understands most of it and trusts the rest. So we can make them follow a line instead of stomping all over the carpet. Yes, Hermione says. We can also embarrass them with precision. People like this hate that more than curses. Harry sits across from her and reads the first page. The words blur once, then settle. The column of dos and don'ts looks like a wand form. Step here. Turn here. Breathe here. Good, he says. A corner of parchment lifts as if stirred by a draft. There is no draft. A tight line snaps down the center of the page like a crease and then smooths again. Hermione slaps her palm over it, eyes flashing. Stop that, she says to the empty air. The empty air does not answer. A librarian clears her throat at the end of the row. Hermione lowers her hand and stacks the pages with a deliberate calm that reads like a threat. Break, Ron says. We move before the books catch fire from angry thinking. Ginny finds them near the second-floor window bay. She tilts her head at Harry. He gives her the quiet nod he has been practicing so he does not make people more anxious. Walk, she says. They cut left past a suit of armor that does not move and down the cold stair that smells of damp. A rug in a side hall turns up at one corner. Under it, a thin line of blue chalk runs across the stones and into a crack. Ginny stares at it. That is not ours. No, Harry says. His voice is flat. He can feel the pull of the shard even without drawing. Something in the castle has been marked to guide a foot or a thought. He does not tear the rug up. He presses it down with his shoe and keeps going. They reach a quiet landing that looks out over the herb beds. It is bright and still and far from the new observers. Ginny leans on the rail. Harry stands beside her and lets the cold air wash his face. "You have been holding your breath all day," she says. "I did not notice." "You do now," she says. "Let it go." He lets it go. It runs out of him in a slow rush he does not hear until it is happening. The shard in his pocket feels less like a stone and more like an anchor. That helps, and it also stings. "Tell me the part you are not saying out loud," she says. "They want to put me in a room and write me into a box with a pen," he says. "Then they want to open a door I cannot see and ask me to power it while they stand behind a wall and take notes." "You do not power anything for them," she says. "You are not their key. You are not their machine." "I know," he says. "It will not stop them from trying." She goes quiet for a time. The winter sun throws a line across the stone and it looks like a cut. She touches his wrist. "Show me the word again." "Quiet," he says. She says it back. "Quiet." She studies his face. "Good." He glances down the stair. The feeling of being watched comes and goes like a very slow blink. It is not a person in a robe. It is a method in a hood. "After dinner," he says, "I want you to come with me." We take the long loop past the old music room and the trophy case. "If I feel the brush again, you say the word first." "I can do that." "Good." They stand there until the cold bites enough to be useful. Then they go back up. By evening the ICW sets up a small post in the West Gallery with a table and 2 chairs and a strict face that speaks in notes more than words. Students are called one by one. Questions never sound like questions. They sound like forms read aloud. When the runner comes for Harry, Hermione steps in front of him with a copy of the charter. "Interviews are recorded on our terms," she says. "We will provide a witness and a copy. If any question concerns private medical data, we decline." The aide looks relieved to have a rule he can point to if someone above him shouts later. He lets them through without a fight. Harry sits. Hermione stands behind his left shoulder with a quill of her own. The gray witch from the morning looks up from a list and fixes him with a gaze that would cut granite. "State your name," she says. "Harry Potter." "State your age." 16. "State your current health." "Tired." "Fine." "Did you release a force into a schoolroom last night that damaged stone and disrupted the air?" "Yes." "Did you intend harm?" "No." "Can you control further incidents?" "I am learning to." "Do you agree to confinement in a controlled space until this body certifies your methods?" "No," Harry says. Silence. A quill stills. The witch tilts her head. "Explain." "I will train under my headmaster and under his rules. This is a school. I do not belong in your box." Hermione's quill scratches a separate note that he knows will go to Madame Bones within the hour. The witch does not quarrel. She writes a line, stamps a corner, and dismisses them with a flat thank you that holds no thanks. In the corridor outside, Ron lets out a breath as if he had been the one answering. Horrible voice. "Could curdle milk." "Do not make me laugh," Hermione says. She looks at Harry. "You did well." They part for dinner with a plan to meet after. The hall is loud enough to be normal. Plates clatter. First years argue about pudding flavors. For a few minutes Harry feels like a boy at school again. Then the plates clear and the noise drains away. Night brings colder air and longer shadows. The 3 of them move together. Ginny joins without being asked. They take the long loop Harry wanted. Past music stands stacked in a dusty corner. Past a trophy that remembers a game from a year no one alive recalls. The brush hits again. It is a whisper across skin, not across thought this time. Harry does not reach for the shard. He does not look for the watcher. Ginny says it first. "Quiet." The pull recedes. He flexes his hand and keeps walking. "Thank you," he says. "Again," she says. "Quiet," he says. The second drop of tension goes with the word. A figure steps out of a side gap near the old arithmancy room and stops where the light leaves him half-drawn. A hood hides most of his face. The robe is black in a way that looks like it forgot how to be cloth. "Croaker," Hermione whispers. She knows the name the way some students know the score of a match from 10 years ago. The unspeakable lifts his head. His voice is careful and blank. We require cooperation with a study in the lower levels. No, Harry says. Croaker does not argue. There is a door in the department. It belongs to death. We would like to know what happens when your force meets the threshold of its limit. You can help us learn. Ron takes one step that places his shoulder half a hand in front of Harry. He is not a lantern you can carry down a dark stair whenever you feel curious. Croaker looks at Ron as if measuring how long he would stand in a fire. He does not look away first. Then he turns his eyes to Harry again. We can protect people, Croaker says. His tone does not change. If we know the limits of your current, if we can learn how it speaks to the room that answers to endings, we can write that knowledge down and hand it to someone who stands the watch after us. You want to put me next to the veil, Harry says. We want to observe a controlled interaction between a small draw and a stable boundary, Croaker says. Then say that, Hermione says. Say it in plain language. Stop dressing it in words that hide the thing you intend. Croaker inclines his head a fraction. He does not mind the rebuke. He files it away like a point on a chart. I will not go, Harry says. Not now. Not with you. Not in that room. Croaker does not press. You will change your mind when the count of risks grows long enough. I hope you change it before someone bleeds on a floor, you know. If you do change it, send word. We will set a time you choose. We will record with your copyist in the room. He steps back into the gap and is gone. The gap holds shadow like water in a small bowl. Then even that thins. Ron stares at the space. I do not like him. He is telling the truth as he knows it, Hermione says. It is still wrong. They move again. Harry feels the shape of the veil in his mind like a draft from a door that leads to a cliff. He swallows and makes himself walk with his feet flat and his hands loose. They reach the spare classroom near the tower where the window sticks on cold nights. The room is quiet and full of old chalk and a single desk that lists to one side. Ginny closes the door and checks the corners. Hermione sets her folder down and opens a fresh page. We will make our own list, she says. Not of what they want, of what we need. Harry nods. Rule 1. No draws without a witness. Rule 2, Ron says. No training when you skip food or sleep. Rule 3, Ginny says. If the pull whispers, you say the word out loud and you look at a face. Rule 4, Hermione says. Any person who wants access goes through the headmaster in daylight with a written reason that names the act in plain language. Harry breathes easier as the rules take shape. They are not about power. They are about people in a room and doors that stay shut until there is a reason to open them. He sits on the desk and feels it rock and stop. His pulse slows. He can taste chalk and tea on the air. The shard stays quiet. The coil that waits under sleep does not stir. Tomorrow, Ginny says, they will try again, not with questions, with pressure. I know, Harry says. Good, she says. That will make it easier to see. They fall silent. Outside, the tower wind hums in the stone. Footsteps pass somewhere above and then fade. Harry looks at the window. The glass shows a faint echo of the four of them in a loose line. For a moment he imagines a fifth shape behind them where the shadow of the door lies. He blinks and it is gone. Ron rubs his eyes. I am going to fall asleep on this floor. Bed, Hermione says. She packs the folder, straightens the pages, and tucks the quill away. We start early. We document everything. Harry stands. Ginny takes his wrist for one breath and lets go. He squeezes her fingers in return. The room smells like chalk and cold and a little like apples from someone's pocket, and it makes the next few steps feel simple. They open the door. The corridor outside is empty and still. They walk toward the stair with quiet shoes. The castle creaks once like an old ship rolling in slow water. At the bend before the next landing, Harry pauses. The suit of armor there is turned back the right way. The visor faces the arch. The gauntlet rests on the hilt. The floor shows a faint scuff where someone dragged the base and then pushed it home. He says nothing. He does not touch it. He does not reach for the shard. He walks on with the others and lets the chill of the stone climb through his shoes and up into his bones. In the gallery they pass a table where someone has left a single folded paper under a glass weight. No words on the outside, only a blank face staring up. He feels the prickle again and does not stop. They reach the tower stair. The four of them split without a fuss. Ron claps Harry on the shoulder. Hermione bumps her folder against his arm to remind him there is a plan. Ginny leans in and whispers his word once more. Quiet, he climbs. The corridor to the dorm is warm and smells of smoke and soap. He pushes the door with his shoulder and steps into the room. He sets the shard on the table where he can see it if he wakes. He sits on the edge of the bed and keeps his feet on the floor until his breath is a little slower. Somewhere in the castle, someone writes his name on a line that says emergent risk. Somewhere else, someone oils a door hinge and whistles to cover the fact that their hands are shaking. Harry lies back and stares at the dark. The day runs past behind his eyes like watered-down stone. For a long time nothing moves. Then the voice that is not a voice turns once in the deep and settles again without speaking. As if it is curious. As if it is counting. As if it can wait. He closes his eyes and lets the last breath go. The night holds him without a word. Dumbledore waited in the office with the windows shut and the room bare of sweets. The fire burned low. A single folder lay on the desk. He did not sit. Close the door, he said. Harry closed it. Ron and Hermione stood at his left and right. The room smelled like wax and smoke. The shard in Harry's pocket felt colder than the air. Dumbledore touched the folder with 2 fingers. I have withheld one more truth, he said. We correct that now. Tom Riddle split his soul. He made anchors. They are called Horcruxes. Hermione's hand went to her mouth. Ron spoke first. How many? I cannot swear to a count, Dumbledore said. Enough that he felt safe inside his own arrogance. I destroyed one last year. A ring. I paid a price for it. We must find the rest. Harry kept his eyes on the folder. Tell us where to start. The locket, Dumbledore said. It belonged to Salazar Slytherin. Regulus Black stole it from a hidden place and brought it home. Grimmauld Place. I said nothing because the risk for you was already too large. I feared adding another weight. That was wrong. Hermione found her voice. If Regulus brought it back, why did no one destroy it? Creature tried, Dumbledore said. He could not. He hid it and waited for orders that would not come. The house fell into neglect. Thieves came. Then the war. The locket vanished. I have reason to think it was returned to the house by a hand we cannot thank. If I am wrong, we will still search. If I am right, we move tonight. Harry felt a tight line form behind his eyes. You want me to use the shard on it? Dumbledore looked at him without blinking. The power you hold is not a curse. It is a force that follows a cleaner law. The ring cracked when I pushed it. It hurt me because I forced a result with Midgard hands. You can bring a different answer. Not shatter. Purify. If we are careful. Hermione did not look down. We have a rule for that, she said. No draws when he is alone. Food first. Witnesses in the room. We keep the word. We keep every rule, Dumbledore said. We will go through the old black door together. We ask the house elf what he knows. We do not touch the locket until the room is set. Ron nodded. That is a plan. Dumbledore glanced at the clock. 10 minutes. Coats. Gloves. We use the private line. No one sees you leave. If someone tries to stop us, we return and wait. We do not fight a hallway tonight. They left and came back with scarves and steady faces. Dumbledore took a pinch of powder from a tin and fed the small grate that no one else used. The flame turned hot and very bright. They stepped in one by one. The turn ended in a dark hall that smelled like damp and old drapes. Number 12 waited like a patient animal. Dumbledore set the wards with a flick that made no light and no sound. A pop came from the back hall. Creature appeared and bowed too low, eyes sharp and red. Master, he said to Harry, because old rules ran deep in the house. You came back. The house remembers. We need your help, Harry said. The locket. Creature froze and went smaller, as if the air pressed him down. He nodded once. Yes, the dark thing. The no good thing. Creature hid it when thieves came. Creature listens to orders. Dumbledore's voice was gentle. Show us where you hid it. Creature turned and led them down into the old scullery. The floor tiles were cracked and slick. A smell of rust and tea hung under the chill. He pulled a dented kettle off a shelf and set it aside. He lifted a loose slab with a long hiss of breath and a jerk of his thin wrists. A tin sat in the hole. He took it out and offered it up with both hands. Harry did not grab it. Hermione, he said. She set a cloth on the scrubbed wood. Dumbledore set the tin on the cloth and flipped the lid with the back of a spoon. There was no flash, no smoke, only a slow rise of cold that made fingers sting. The locket lay inside. Gold. Green stone in the shape of an eye. A small snake curled under the glass. It did not move. It did not need to. Ron took a small step back. I hate it. Creature drew breath through his teeth. It whispers in sleep. Harry felt the coil at the back of his mind stir. It wanted him to take without thinking and push until nothing moved. He closed his hand around the edge of the table until it hurt. Hermione set a second cloth beside the first. We build our place, she said. Ron, bring the bucket. Fill it with water. Set it there. We do not know how heat will act. We prepare to smother. Ron moved at once. The bucket clanked. Water sloshed and settled. Creature fetched a towel without being asked and set it beside Ron's boot. The room felt small and all the items had weight because they belonged to a plan. Dumbledore looked at Harry. You do not touch it. You hold the shard over it. You let a thread rise. You bind the thread to the marks I showed you. It is the shape that cleans. No more. Word, Hermione said. Quiet, Harry said. Eat, Ron said and shoved a biscuit into his hand. I am not having you pass out in that chair. I do not want to explain that to Ginny. Harry ate. The biscuit went down dry, and the tea that followed was too hot, and it still helped. He set the shard in his right hand. He kept his left hand flat on the table. He looked at the locket and at the small flaw on the glass near the hinge and not into the green. He found the shape. It was a circle that closed and then opened. It felt like a loop that carried light one way and pushed grime out the other. He breathed. He said the word once in his head. He sang a note so soft that only his own chest heard it. The thread rose. Blue. Thin. Cold. It met the air over the tin and the air wavered. The edge of the tin clicked as if metal had shifted. The locket did not move. The room did. The cold grew sharp. It bit his teeth. Harry held the shape and eased the thread to touch the metal clasp. The sound came as soon as contact met the latch. Not loud. Not a cry in the room. A pressure sound that sat behind the ear. It made the breath go thin and the back of the neck prickle. Creature dropped to his knees with a small choke. Ron swore and clamped a hand on his shoulder. Quiet, Hermione said. Harry. Harry did not look up. The thread met the clasp. The metal went from cold to colder. The green behind the glass turned darker and then paler and then darker again. The snake did not move. The sound behind the ear grew and bit. He tasted copper. The thread wanted more. It wanted to flood the space and scour it clean until stone and air forgot what had been here. He kept it small. One thread. One loop. He held for one count and then for two. He had no hand left for three. Quiet, Ron said. Harry eased the thread away. The sound thinned. The cold stayed, then eased, then stayed again like a tide. The clasp clicked. A small bit of black residue pushed out and fell onto the cloth. It looked like ash that had been wet and dried. The room smelled like old coins. Hermione leaned in without touching. Again, she said. Same size. Harry nodded. He drank. He wiped his mouth. He set his hand again. He breathed and lifted one thread. It met the seam of the locket. The sound came back at once, deeper, heavy with a feeling that he did not let in past the edge of his teeth. His hand shook. He found the loop by memory and not by name, and he let it pull light across the seam. The seam resisted, and then they both gave, one as the other did. The locket shuddered. Not a true shake. A shiver that ran across the metal as if the air around it had a fever. The green stone flashed and went pale. A thin pulse of something that was not light and not smoke pushed up and out. It looked like a stain that had been dragged through water and ripped. Creature made a broken sound. The bucket rattled as Ron shifted his weight and held him still with a rough hand. "Hold for one," Dumbledore said. His voice was calm and tight at the same time. Harry held. The pull became a tug. His fingers cramped. His jaw ached. He let the thread go. Silence. A drip. The kettle sighed as old heat left the metal. The locket lay open by the smallest measure. The hinge had eased without human hands. Hermione stepped in and steadied her breath like a person sitting down at a piano just before a piece that frightens them. "Harry, do you feel the rise?" "Yes, say it," she said. "Quiet." The rise let go of his ribs. His hand steadied. "Again," Dumbledore said. "Food first," Ron said. Dumbledore nodded. "Food first." Harry swallowed a bite he did not want. It landed and made a kind of sense in his body. He put the cup down. He lifted the shard. He did not look at the green. He watched the hinge. He drew one thread and placed it along the mark that looked like a tiny wave. He thought of a gentle pull on a knot. The sound returned at once, and then changed. The pitch dropped. It became fainter, and wound down until it was almost nothing. The room warmed by a breath. The locket opened. Inside, there was no folded note. No message. Only a place where a thing had been. The inside smelled clean in a wrong way, as if a page had been bleached too many times. Harry waited for the pull to ask for more. It asked. He said the word. He kept his hand still. The pull did not like that. It sulked and waited. Hermione wrote 3 lines and then set the quill down. The sound of the tip on paper had kept her steady. Without it her hand shook. Ron lifted the bucket to give himself something to do and put it down when it sloshed too close to the tin. Creature moved his mouth without words for a count of 3. Then he whispered, "Gone." Harry did not answer. He watched the inside of the living thing that had been dead and still laced with hunger. The hunger was not there now. It had been pushed back into a place it should never have left. Dumbledore let his breath go. "You did it," he said. "Very simple. No praise that would make the air loud. You enforced a law that does not belong to Tom." The coil in Harry's head turned once like a cat at the edge of a fire and chose not to show its face. It was not quiet in the world outside that room. In a dark house far from London, in a high room that had held more whispers than air, a man with a white face paused with his hand on a book. Pain landed in his chest with a brutal honesty he had forgotten. It was narrow and pure and did not carry any curse with it. It did not asphyxiate or burn. It did not ask for permission. He staggered. He set a hand on the edge of a desk and felt wood under bone and remembered that hands can shake without being afraid. The wards in the walls shivered. The snake on the hearth raised its head and then laid it down with a hiss. He looked into nothing and asked a question with no words. The universe answered with a silence that was thick and without mercy. He understood one thing without names. Something that he had thought could not be undone had changed without his hand on it. The pieces of him that made him feel safe pushed against a tide that did not slow. Fear came like a clear liquid and filled the space behind his eyes. It did not come because of a wand or a name. It came because of a rule he had never bothered to read. He did not throw the book. He closed it and set it down at a right angle to the table and walked to the window and set both hands on the sill. He breathed until the pain became a memory of pain, and then a story he would not tell even to himself. He would find a way to make the world refuse that rule. He would choke the air around that boy. He would build a field that told the cleaner law to go home and stay there. He smiled then, very small, because he was a man who had once solved puzzles just to break them after. He would make a shield that said no to a word the boy had not spoken out loud yet. He would do it at a place where the earth was already tired. The fear did not leave. It sat in the corner and watched him work. Back in the scullery at Grimmauld Place, Hermione closed the locket box by laying the cloth over it and folding the edges without letting the metal touch her skin. "That scream," she said. Her voice was steady by choice. "I do not like what it did to my head." "Mine too," Ron said. Harry sat back. He had the feeling in his bones that comes after a long run in cold air. His fingers cramped and then let go. He wanted sleep and food and quiet and 5 minutes without the pull. Hermione looked at him and then at Dumbledore. Did we just hurt a piece of a person in a way we cannot name? Dumbledore did not deflect. We stopped a wrong act from continuing, he said. We did not burn a body. We did not tear a mind. We enforced a line. Your discomfort at the sound is right. Keep it. It will keep you honest. It does not mean we should have left it. Harry felt the anger in Hermione rise and then bend. She did not want to break it off. She wanted facts she could love. He could not give her that. I felt it, Harry said. For a moment. It did not feel like a person. It felt like a knot tied in a nerve. It did not belong where it was. When I pulled, it slid and went the way blood flows back to the heart when a hand is taken off a wrist. Hermione set her hands on the table and looked at her knuckles. I hear you, she said. I still hate the scream. Good, Dumbledore said. Hate it. Speak about it. Then we do the next task anyway. Ron cleared his throat. What do we do with the shell? We keep it as proof, Dumbledore said. We lock it where only we can find it. We record what Harry felt and when. We build a chart that will let a future mind follow without guessing. Creature stood very still and watched the room as if afraid to breathe. He looked at the tin and at Harry and then at the kettle he had moved. He had the air of someone whose orders had returned. There was light in that and grief in the same place. Thank you, Harry said to him. You saved lives when you took it. You did not know how many. Creature bowed and mumbled words that sounded like blessing and apology, and a promise to scrub a floor that did not exist anymore. He took the kettle and put it back where it belonged. They carried the tin to the pantry that had a secret they all knew now. Dumbledore set a small box inside a hollow in the wall and sealed it with a charm that smelled like clean linen. He hid the hole with the same slab that had covered the tin. He did it twice because habits like that keep people alive. When they returned to the table, Hermione lifted her notes and turned a page. The top line had started to blur where steam had risen and hit the ink. She frowned at the smudge and reached to straighten the paper. Harry caught her wrist with 2 fingers. Wait, she froze. What? The shard in his pocket had gone from cold to colder without any draw. The edge of the table vibrated under his hand like a string plucked and left. He looked down. A very faint shimmer ran across the wood from the spot where the tin had sat toward the place where Dumbledore stood. He moved his hand closer. The shimmer moved toward the edge of his palm. It did not feel like a ward. It felt like the way a bucket leaks. Slow. Annoying. You only see it when there is a ring on the table after you pick the bucket up. Do you see that? He asked. Hermione squinted. What am I looking at? Ron leaned in and then leaned back. Not sure. The table looks wrong for a second. Dumbledore stepped closer. Describe it, he said. Something is drawing on the minute traces, Harry said. Not the locket. On me. The shard is colder and I did not ask it to be. The pull is not high. It is thin and constant. He pointed without touching. The line runs there. It does not feel like the house. Dumbledore's face went very still. He traced a path in the air with his fingertips and then pulled a small coin from his sleeve and laid it on the wood. The coin slid 2 finger widths against gravity and stopped. He lifted it. He looked at the bottom. He set it back in his pocket. That is not the house, he said. That is a watcher trying to taste your current from a distance. Unspeakables, Ron said. Hermione's face went hard. Or someone who claims to work for a higher good that is always in the next sentence. Dumbledore looked sick and tired at once. It might be either. Or both. It could be a string keyed to the artifact you carry. I did not carve a leash into your focus. I swear that on the graves of my family. But the shard is old. It may hold a mark that answers to hands that no longer live. Harry braced his elbows on his knees. He put his head in his hands for one breath and came up again. I am not bleeding for them while I sleep. No, Dumbledore said. You are not. He laid his hand above the place where the shimmer ran and pressed. There was no flash. The air pushed back. He pressed again, slower. The pressure bent and let go. The table stopped humming. Harry checked the shard in his pocket. The cold became the normal cold. The pole stopped asking for what had just left. A patch, Dumbledore said. Not a cure. We will find it. We will cut it at the source. We must be patient and clever. We must not shout where they can write down our noise. Hermione set her hands on her papers so the shake would not show. We go back, she said. We put this in our ledger. We set a watch. We do not let him draw when the house is not ours. Ron looked at Creature. No one else into this room when we are gone. Creature bowed. No one else, he said. Creature throws them by the ears if they try. Dumbledore closed the office tin and the slab. He walked with them to the grate. Food when you return. Then rest, he said. Tomorrow we begin the work of making the Watchers useful against each other. They took the private line back. The office in the castle smelled like ink and lemon oil. The fire was out now. The light at the window came thin and gray. Harry's legs trembled only when he took a step with his left foot. He noted it and sat. Hermione wrote the time and the place and the things they had seen, then shut the folder and put it into the bag that never left her shoulder. She looked at him without flinching. I hate that scream, she said again. I will still walk with you to the next one. Ron put a hand on Harry's shoulder and squeezed. You did it, he said. You did not explode. You did not faint. You told the thing no and it listened. Harry nodded. His mouth tasted like old metal. The shard sat in his pocket like a truth he could not change. He wanted to see Ginny, and he wanted sleep, and he wanted the pull to stop promising him that one big surge would make the world stop being messy. Dumbledore poured water. One more rule, he said. When we do this work, we set a second person on the word. If one voice fails, another says it at once. Fine, Harry said. He stood. The room tilted and then did not. He made it to the door and then to the corridor and then to the stair. The castle smelled like stone and soap. The air felt kinder than the house had. That helped. In the common room, Ginny was waiting on the chair near the fire with a book open and a frown on her face that had nothing to do with the page. She looked up fast and her mouth softened. He sat. She leaned in. Word. Quiet, he said. She said it back. Quiet. She watched his eyes. I can hear the edges of something. It was loud then quiet, he said. It is fine now. Food, she said. He ate what she put in his hand without arguing. The starch landed and the sugar came later. His hands stopped shaking. The room warmed. He did not tell her about the scream first. He told her about the shimmer on the table and the slow leak and the coin that moved. She swore in a very gentle way that sounded like a person promising to break a window without making a mess. Tomorrow, she said, we walk where they want us to run. We make them trip over their own feet. Then we do your work without letting them near it. He smiled at that without meaning to. The smile surprised him and helped more than the tea. When he slept, he dreamed about nothing. Half an hour after he dropped, in a place far from school, a man who had never liked the taste of fear lit a candle and watched the flame climb and thought about a field that would tell a cleaner law to go home. He laughed once because he could still make the sound. It hurt his throat. The night in the tower held. The word lay under Harry's tongue like a coin he could spend if he needed it. He did not need it for a while. Breakfast had just turned loud when Kingsley Shacklebolt stepped through the great doors. He scanned the tables once, saw Harry, and lifted 2 fingers in a small signal Dumbledore often used to call a student aside without fuss. Harry set down his cup. Ron clocked the look and didn't like it. Hermione slid her folder halfway into her bag and rose with them. Alone, Kingsley said, quiet. 2 minutes. West antechamber. Ron didn't move. We've got a rule about that. It's from Dumbledore, Kingsley said, and he let the order name hang there because it opened doors. His face was calm, not cold, and that made it worse. Harry glanced at the staff table. Dumbledore was speaking to McGonagall. He didn't look up, he didn't nod. Harry felt the shard cool harder in his pocket. 2 minutes, Harry said. Door open. They followed Kingsley down the side hall. He didn't hurry. He didn't put a hand on Harry's shoulder. He stopped in the antechamber with the tall windows and the long strip of old rug that never lay flat. He stood where the light hit his face and kept his hands where they could be seen. Ward test, Kingsley said. Headmaster asked me to check an anchor near the north line. We're doing it now because the ICW is about to put more locks on the place, and I'd rather we use ours. It'll take a touch of your magic, Harry. Thumb on a token. I watched the draw pattern. We're done. Hermione's chin tipped. Which anchor? Which token? Which watching? Kingsley opened a small velvet pouch and showed a round copper disc stamped with a plain triangle. Portable reader. It tracks the field around a subject when they touch a keyed object. I want the pattern, not the power. We do it here. We don't leave the castle. Quiet. Ginny would have said if she were here. She wasn't. Ron said it instead very low to make the habit stick. Harry placed a finger on the coin without letting his weight settle. Copper was warm from Kingsley's hand. Under that warmth, a hum waited that didn't belong to the school. What's the word if something is wrong? Hermione asked. Stop, Kingsley said. I am not the unspeakables. The hum under the copper shifted. A tug rose in Harry's arm, light and polite as a gloved pinch. Harry took his finger off at once. No, Kingsley met his eyes. He didn't look away. They are afraid, Harry. So am I. There is a court being built out there with your name on the wall. If you help me map your field, I can argue for walls you can live with. Hermione's voice went flat. If this is harmless, we do it in the headmaster's office with him watching. Kingsley's hand tightened on the pouch a fraction. He told me to be quick. He didn't tell me that, Harry said. Kingsley exhaled slow, almost a sigh. His free hand dipped into his robe and came out with a simple order coin like the ones that used to pulse with messages. He held it where Harry could see the worn edge. Old ways, he said. I'll show willing. I'll call him now. He rolled the coin once across his knuckles. The glint off the rim caught Harry's eye, and the shard in his pocket dropped in temperature like it had been dipped in winter water. The hum under the copper disc deepened. No, not under the copper. Under the floor. Under his boots. Quiet, Ron said again, louder. Harry didn't think. He took one clean step back. The air in front of him twitched as a ring of dust lifted off the rug and spun like a halo. The coin in Kingsley's fingers flashed once. Portkey tug, and the dust ring tried to fold in. Harry let the shard bite and dragged a breath down to his ribs. He grounded. He didn't push out. He pulled the world into his feet and asked the stone to hold. The tug caught his sleeve and nothing else. The dust ring whirled, failed to close, and fell with a soft sift. Kingsley swore under his breath. I didn't want it this way. Hermione's quill scratched once where she'd already started a note. Modified portkey. That's a violation inside the wards. I am trying to keep a boy from becoming an event, Kingsley said. And this time there was heat in it. He flicked his wrist. A thin filament of pale light snapped from the copper disc to the floor, spread in lines, and woke a circle they hadn't seen. Chalk under rug, dusted runes rising. Binding marks. They licked up the air like faint, blue etchings. Harry's pulse kicked. He accepted the truth. Kingsley had laid a net inside his school. Not alone. Not without a green light from someone above him. He didn't care who. The circle gripped his ankles like cold water. It won't hurt you, Kingsley said. It will hold long enough for us to walk downstairs and keep you from tearing a hole in a place that can't afford it. The filament tightened. The runes lifted like threads. No, Harry said. The word was small. The force that followed it wasn't. He didn't flood. He set a pressure in the floor a foot to his left and let it pop, crack. Like the first snap of ice in a thaw. The circle faltered. One thread broke with a sound like a hair pulled across rosin. Kingsley moved fast, wand up, not to strike but to shift the net. He was good. He adjusted without thinking, leaned, redrew 2 lines with a flick, stepped on the rug to pin it. I admire Dumbledore, he said, suddenly hoarse. But he has a blind spot when it comes to you. The world is larger than one school. Ron slid his foot between 2 marks and scuffed a chalk arrow with the heel of his shoe. The world can wait while you get your hands off my friend. Hermione's voice stayed cool. Harry, anchor to me, then step out on the break. Harry set his palm against the back of Hermione's shoulder. The contact steadied him. He found the scuff Ron had made and pushed a thin breath through the shard. Not a blast. A bar sideways. It slid under the painted line and pried. Runes hissed and lifted. He stepped. The net clung to his boot and tore like cobweb, soft, sticky, then gone. Kingsley's jaw clenched. He dropped the copper disc, slapped both hands together, and clapped. The sound hit the air like a flat crack. Every torch on the wall flexed. Fine dust fell from the ceiling like mist. The chalk bled back toward the ring, eager to be whole. "Don't make me stun you," Kingsley said. "Please, don't make me do this where children can see me fail." "You already failed," Hermione said. She pinched the bridge of her nose, breathed once, and lowered her hand. "Not because you can't cast. Because you think harm only counts if it leaves a bruise." Croaker stepped out of a fold in the shadow behind Kingsley, hood low. No footsteps, no cloak whisper, just a presence where there hadn't been one. "Move him now," Croaker said, as if the conversation were done. "We lose the window." Kingsley didn't turn. "You weren't invited into this room. You lit the fuse," Croaker said. "We came to watch the spark." Harry drew breath to throw, and the shard surged to meet it like a dog straining at a lead. He almost let it run. Ron's knuckles knocked his arm, gentle, the signal they had agreed on. "Quiet," Ron said. Harry held the breath. He let the shard bite his palm until the skin stung. He spoke without raising his voice. "You're not getting me to the department," he said to Kingsley. "Not under a net. Not through a trick. Not today." Croaker cocked his head. "In public, then. Useful. We needed the audience anyway." Behind him, two black robes with smooth, featureless masks slid into place and waited. Harry watched their hands. Neither lifted a wand. That meant they had other tools in their sleeves. "You move this to the Great Hall," Hermione murmured, eyes on the floor. "You make noise where the ICW can't pretend not to see. You make the Watchers watch each other." Harry nodded once. The shard thrilled at the plan like a string tuned up to pitch. He set his weight, then took it off his heels and stepped. Not a Bifrost beam. Not a gale. A single, tight shove that raised the rug edge and skidded it 3 feet. Chalk tore with a dry hiss. Lines broke. The net fell apart like a pattern rubbed from a slate. Kingsley swore again, sharper. Croaker didn't. He folded his hands. "Run," Ron asked, half a grin, half terror. "Walk," Hermione said. "Make them follow the rules they wrote." They left the room at a controlled pace. Kingsley kept with them, not grabbing, jaw set. Croaker and the two masks slid behind like a shadow moving from wall to wall. At the great hall doors, the ICW observer with iron hair stood to one side, 2 aides with ledgers at her back. She raised an eyebrow at the troop and moved half a step to block the threshold. Dumbledore rose at the staff table before anyone called his name. He looked at Harry, at Kingsley, at the black hoods. He seemed to grow taller without moving. "Not in here," McGonagall said, voice like a blade. "Not in front of my students." "It has to be here," Croaker said. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "We require witnesses to a refusal." "Then you'll have one," Hermione said, already pulling a sheet from her folder. "Several." Kingsley lifted a hand to the iron-haired witch. "We're taking him to a secure room. I'll sign for the transfer." "No," Harry said, and he pitched it for the room, not just the rail. "The Department of Mysteries wants to strap me to a boundary in a chamber of death to see if I light it up for them." Noise. Not a roar. A shift. Every bench moved. Every hand found a table edge. The ICW witches' aides looked at their papers as if the ink had just turned to water. "What you just heard," Hermione said, clear, "is a plain language description. Feel free to write it down." Croaker didn't flinch. "We will keep him alive." Ron barked a laugh. "Oh good. He'll be alive while you throw him at a curtain that eats voices." Kingsley took a breath that looked like the first step of a climb. "Harry, you tried to portkey me out of a school hallway," Harry said. "You laid a net under the carpet." "I did," Kingsley said. He didn't defend. "Because I have seen what happens when governments wait too long to draw lines. Because I will not watch a boy become a crater through our inaction." "You could have asked me in a room with a door," Harry said. Croaker made the smallest gesture, fingers not quite together. The two masks reached into their sleeves. Harry didn't wait. He let out a controlled flare. Just a bright crack of pressure and light at his feet. The air popped, pop, like a giant knuckle. Candles overhead stuttered and went high, then steadied. Quills jumped out of inkpots. Every scry charm in the room spat static. White fizz. A taste of metal. A quick whine in the ears. Enough! The ICW witch snapped. Her palm hit the table hard enough to make plates chatter. Her gaze cut to Croaker. Stand down. We are out of time, Croaker said. You will spend 6 meetings writing a definition for the word danger, while this school eats the roof. Stand down, she said again. Croaker did not. He moved his wrist half an inch. The masks moved like well-oiled hinges. Dumbledore lifted his hand. Nothing flashed. No storm. No spectacle. Heat rolled out like a calm breath. It wrapped Harry and the two friends at his side and pushed against 3 directions at once. ICW Ministry Department without singeing anyone. The air thickened as if the room had been asked to remember a promise it made to children 100 years ago. It did. The doors on the far side clicked shut as if the castle had made up its own mind about exits. Alastair used to say, Dumbledore said, voice steady, constant vigilance. He meant paranoia with a badge. I have always preferred another phrase. Care in public. The heat rose a half step. Hands eased off wands because they couldn't quite remember why they had reached in the first place. It wasn't a compulsion. It was etiquette given shape. Leave, Dumbledore said without looking away from the hall. Now, Kingsley looked at Harry. He looked at Dumbledore. The muscle at his jaw twitched. He nodded to the ICW witch once, as to appear he didn't like, and stepped back from the door. The mask stilled. Croaker measured the room and filed the numbers away. He stepped back too, not yielding, simply choosing the next angle. We'll be back, Croaker said. With procedures you taught us to respect. Dumbledore didn't answer him. He kept his hand raised. Go, he said to Harry, this time soft. Take who you must. Take what you can carry in your head. Harry's stomach dropped. He didn't ask if Dumbledore meant now, as in today, or now, as in this hour. He knew. Hermione had already closed her folder. Ron had already slung his bag. They didn't look at their plates. They didn't look at anyone else's faces. Ginny was 3 tables down. She had one hand on a goblet that wasn't hers and her eyes on Harry's mouth, like she wanted him to say anything except what he would say. He moved fast without looking like he was running. He reached her. He leaned in. I'll come back, he said. You'd better, she said, very steady. Or I will come get you. He touched his forehead to hers for one breath. Quiet, he said. Quiet, she said. And the word left her mouth like a vow. They turned. The hall opened for them because Dumbledore's magic made manners stronger than fear. The castle helped. It shifted a stair half a turn and slid a panel aside. The 3 of them took the corridor behind the old tapestry without needing to think about the route. The air there was colder, honest air from the stone, not from a charm. Which way? Ron asked. Out, Hermione said. Not a flue. Not the main gate. The boundary near the greenhouses dips toward the river. If you can step us past the line there, we can apparate from the far bank. We can try, Harry said. His mouth was dry. His palm hurt. He was shaking under the elbow where he couldn't see it. Second voice stays on the word. Second and third, Ron said. They moved through the school in a line that knew how to be small. At the lower corridor, Peeves lurked near the ceiling with a mouth full of something he was going to spit. He looked at Harry, thought better of it, and blew it into his own sleeve. He saluted, 2 fingers, a mockery, and maybe a crooked kind of respect, then vanished into a vent. They hit the door near the greenhouses. It stuck. Ron shouldered it and it gave with a rough scrape. Cold hit their faces. The lawn ran down to the fence in a soft swell. Beyond the wards, the river cut dark and fast. Behind them, bells started to ring, short peals from the direction of the Great Hall. Alerts, not panic. A signal that adults had decided to argue in organized rounds. Here, Hermione said, stopping where the grass changed color by a shade. The line is under our feet. Harry looked at the fence, at the sky, at the distant tree where Hagrid hung lanterns when it snowed. He drew breath and tasted iron, fear, or the shard, or both. He took Ron's wrist and Hermione's shoulder. "Quiet," Hermione said. "Quiet," Ron said. Harry set the pressure small and precise. Not a beam, not a tear. A single step laid sideways. The air protested, whine, thin sting in the teeth, then let go with a soft, quick click. Cold flooded under his boots as if he had walked from a carpet onto stone. They were outside the line. "Now," Hermione said. She took Ron's hand and Harry's sleeve and twisted. The world pinched, cracked, and snapped into a stand of pines on the far bank where the wind always smelled like sap. They stumbled together and caught themselves on the same trunk. Harry bent and braced his hands on his knees. He said the word even though no one had asked him to. "Quiet." "Good," Hermione said, breathless. "Again." "Quiet," Ron said, just to overdo it and make him snort. It worked. They stood with their backs to the bark and looked through the trees at the castle on the hill. It didn't look like a prison. It looked like home. That hurt. It also helped. The pain made the promise sharp. "We're fugitives," Ron said after a long minute. "That's a ridiculous word. It makes me want to put a hat on and grow a mustache." Hermione wiped her eyes with the back of her wrist and made a small, broken laugh. "We document. We plan. We send a letter to the right ears. We don't stop." Harry nodded. His heartbeat felt too large for his chest and then slowly found its normal shape. He looked at his palm. Teeth marks from the shard reddened the skin. He flexed his fingers. "Where first?" Ron asked. "Grimmauld again? The burrow is out. They'll watch it." "Not a door they expect," Hermione said. "The old training site under the school is out. They'll have sealed the entrance. We use the glen past the Shrieking Shack for one night. Then we move. We have to find the next Horcrux before they build more cages." "They're going to call this running," Ron said. "It is moving," Hermione said. "There's a difference." Harry felt the coil that had waited all morning unspool a fraction. He could breathe. He could think. He could see, under the fear, the line of work that still had to be done. Locket, cup, diadem, snake, the scarred path between them. He looked back at the castle one more time. The windows caught the weak sun and showed nothing. He pictured the hall, the plates, the candles, the look on Ginny's face when he had said the word, and tucked the picture into the place where he kept reasons to keep his feet straight. "Move," he said. They did. The pines took them for a while, then the old road, then a strip of fallow field where the ground showed the marks of last year's plow. The wind pulled at their scarves. A rook followed for a few trees, then lost interest. By the time the sun was low, they were in a gully with granite shoulders and a trickle of water talking to itself at the bottom. Hermione set wards with careful fingers. Ron built a small flame under a rock lip where it wouldn't show. Harry sat with his back against the granite and let the cold leach the last of the noise out of his bones. He didn't sleep yet. He ate something that tasted like cardboard and salt and didn't care. He checked the shard twice and put it down beside his boot where he could touch it without looking. "Last bit," Ron said, chewing. "Say it." Harry breathed in. "Quiet." Hermione echoed it. Ron again. The words settled over the three of them like a blanket you carry because you chose to, not because someone put it on you. Back at the castle, the arguments started in neat circles. In the department, a hooded man rearranged equipment for a test. He would not be allowed to perform tonight. In a London flat, Kingsley sat alone with his hands open on his knees and didn't touch the coin on the table. Night took the field. The three of them kept a watch in turns. When it was Harry's hour, he listened to the small water and the small fire and let the weight in his chest become the kind that meant you were still here. He looked at the shard once, at the tiny fracture line in the stone where light sometimes seemed to pool. He didn't draw. He didn't rehearse. He kept the word ready and his hands still. They were out. The work was not. Voldemort chose the gaunt ground because the earth there already hated being alive. The shack was gone. The pit remained. Cold rose out of it in steady breaths. He stood at the rim and traced lines with a bone knife. The blade clicked on stone. Green fire answered in the cuts and then sank. "Hold," he said to no one. The ring of Death Eaters behind him watched from the hedgerow. No masks. No sound. The dark was heavy and wet. The field smelled like iron and rot. Voldemort bared his left forearm and pressed the point into Old Scar. The blood that seeped out hit the air and steamed. He did not flinch. He finished the last curve and sealed the circle with a slow push of will. The ground moaned. The air thickened. "Begin," he said. The field obeyed. The lines drank. The circle rose and set like a lid. The world inside the ring felt wrong in a way that pleased him. It was dull. It was quiet. No bright flares. No open doors. He smiled. A small shape that did not reach his eyes. "Bring the stone," he said. A thin man hurried forward with a gray rock held in his cloak. Voldemort placed it at the center. He tipped his head and listened. The earth hummed like a jar with a lid screwed tight. Good. The lid would hold. The lid would say no to that boy's hungry light. He lifted his wand and spoke 3 words that tasted old and dry in the mouth. Heat flowed out and died at the edge of the ring. The ring drank that too. He watched the drain and measured time in his head. "Leave me," he said. They went. He stood alone and stared down at the rock until the night blinked. He did not feel safe. He felt armed. The difference made his heart beat faster. He liked it. He drew a breath and went to work. The glen above the shrieking shack held them for one more night. The pines broke the wind. The little stream talked. Harry sat on a flat stone and watched steam rise from his cup. Hermione checked wards with careful fingers. Ron fed the small fire and kept it small. Cold touched ears and noses. It was clean cold, not the kind that made the skin feel dirty. "We have movement near Little Hangleton," Hermione said without looking up. 2 birds came from different watchers. "Same path. Same hour." "Voldemort," Ron said. "Likely," she said. "There is a smell report too. Sulfur and old water. That is new." Harry rolled the cup between his hands. The shard lay on the rock near his knee. It looked like a shard should look, dull and rough. He could feel the current under it like a cat under a blanket. Waiting. "I will stop fighting the name," he said. Ron looked up. "What name?" Harry met his eyes. "What I am when I use this. What it makes of me. I keep trying to be a good student with a new subject. That is not true anymore." Hermione sat on her heels. "Say what you mean." "I hear the pull," he said. "I have been treating it like a leak. Patch. It breaks. Patch again. It is not a leak. It is a tide. I can either stand there and drown, or I can set the shape and let the water do what it does. With rules. With people in the room. With the word." Ron poked the fire and nodded. "So you stop pretending you are a wand with a different color spark." "Yes," Harry said. The relief hit his chest and left a little ache. "I stop pretending." Hermione watched his face. "What does that change right now?" "I will inscribe the rune I am afraid of," he said. He touched the shard. His palm came away cold. "The one that says the power goes where I point it and not past. The one that costs." "You mean a sacrifice mark," Hermione said. "Yes." Ron set the stick down. "You are not dying for this mark." "I am not dying for this mark," Harry said. "I am paying in a coin I can afford. Pain. Time. Scar. Limits." Hermione breathed out. She wiped her glove across her knee. "We set conditions. We do it with food in you." 2 voices on the word. Water beside. Bandage ready. "If you shake, we stop." "Agreed," Harry said. Ron stood and stretched his shoulders. "Before we carve you like a board, we tell Ginny." Harry's throat tightened. "She is in the castle. She is in Hogsmeade tonight," Hermione said. "She sent a coin. 1 ping. Same old code. I did not show you because I wanted to check the route first." Harry stood. The cup shook once in his hand. He set it down. "Safe. As safe as we ever get," she said. "We meet at the old orchard behind the post. No lights. 10 minutes. Ron pulled his scarf up. "We go now." They covered the fire and left the glen in dark. Snow underfoot squeaked once and then quieted. The village sat low and black ahead. They moved between shadow and fence. Harry did not draw. He did not need to. The air obeyed if he asked with his breath and feet. The orchard held bare branches like fingers. A shape leaned on a trunk 2 rows in. Red hair looked dark in this light. Ginny pushed off the bark and came to meet them. She wore a thick jumper and gloves that did not match. Her nose was pink from cold. Her eyes were clear. Ron turned aside without a word and took watch. Hermione set herself 6 steps away and pretended to count heartbeats with her fingers. She listened anyway. Ginny stopped in front of Harry. She did not touch him yet. "Word," she said. "Quiet," he said. She nodded. "Good. Now tell me why I almost ran through 3 wards to reach you." He swallowed. "I am going to mark myself. A rune that binds this thing to a rule. It will hurt. It will make me slower for a day. It will make me safer for the week after. I need to do it before we go to Little Hangleton." She stared at his mouth for a long second. "You said what you are going to do. You did not pretend it was pretty." "It is not," he said. "But it is better than guessing in the field." She stepped closer. "Do you need me to say do it?" "I need you to know why I am different after," he said. "I might be colder for a while. I might shake. That will pass." She set her glove on his cheek. "I will carry the warm while you do the cold. If you freeze, I kick you." He laughed once. Came out broken and real. He felt it in his ribs. He reached and set his hand against the back of her neck. Careful, steady. "I do not want a grand speech," she said. "I want you alive. I want you to fight like a person who means to come home. I want you to stop deciding you are the only one who can stand in a door." He nodded. "I hear you. You are allowed to ask for help," she said. "You are allowed to be scared in front of me. You are allowed to kiss me before you go carve a stupid letter into your arm." He kissed her. It was not dramatic. It was warm and firm and simple. His hands were cold. Hers were too. The skin at the corner of her mouth was chapped and real. He let himself breathe in that human bit and hold it. When they parted, she stayed close. "Say the word." "Quiet," he said. She said it back and then rested her forehead against his for 1 beat. "Do the mark. Then go end him. Then come back and make me tell you to sleep." He nodded. The fear that had sat on his chest all day shifted. It did not leave. It moved to a place where he could see it. "Time," Hermione said, soft. Ginny stepped back. "Go." He wanted to say 20 things. He picked one. "Thank you," she smiled. "You can say that again when you get back. I will charge you a kiss per word." Ron coughed to hide a grin. Hermione rolled her eyes. "Move," she said. But her mouth had a small curve too. They slipped out the way they came. Ginny watched them go and then ghosted to the side gate. She would be at the head of the DA by morning. She would make adults eat their own rules with clean grammar and sharp eyes. The 3 of them reached the glen before the cold had settled into their sleeves. Harry knelt on the flat rock. Hermione laid out cloth, water, clean blade, salve. Ron set a candle in a niche of stone and covered most of the flame with his hand. "No fancy words," Hermione said. "Name the mark in English. Describe what it does. Describe what it does not do." Harry nodded. "This mark binds my draw to a point I choose. It refuses spill. It refuses pulses that do not obey a person in the room. It will not cut past human flesh. It will not burn the ground." "Good," she said. Ron handed him the blade. "Do not faint. If you do, I am drawing a lightning bolt on your forehead while you nap." Harry snorted. He pressed the tip to the inside of his left forearm where the skin was pale and thin. He breathed. He said the word in his head and then out loud. "Quiet." He pulled the point down a finger's width. Pain jumped. He hissed. The shard on the stone woke like a dog at a whistle and tried to run to him. He did not call it. He made it wait. He set the second line across the first. The little cross bled bright. The smell of iron rose. His stomach flipped once and settled. Hermione's voice stayed even. "Stop if the edges blur." "They are fine," he said. His throat was tight. He carved the third line, a short tack like an arrow tooth. Pain hit harder. Sweat crawled along his neck. He kept the cut shallow and straight. He wiped the blade on the cloth and kept going. The mark took shape in 4 strokes, then 5. It looked simple. A man could miss it if he did not know what it said. Said pay before you pour. It said, "You are not the cup. You are the hand." He finished the last stroke and set the blade down with care he did not feel. The edges burned. Heat crawled up to his elbow. His fingers buzzed as if he had slept on the arm. He leaned back against the stone and blinked until the stars stopped moving. "Word," Ron said. "Quiet," Harry said. The floor steadied under him. Hermione washed the lines with water and pressed clean cloth into his palm. "Hold," he held. Blood slowed, then stopped. She smeared salve that smelled like pine and clean soap. It stung and then cooled. "Name it," she said. "Sacrifice," he said. "Good," she said. "Eat." He ate because she put the bar in his hand and looked like she would be upset if he did not. He chewed. Tasted sweet and sawdusty. Did the job. He set 2 fingers on the shard. "Now the focus." Ron tensed. "Again." "Only the binding," Harry said. "No cut. I do not want to mark the stone with blood. I want the words inside it." Hermione opened her copybook to the page she had made 2 days ago. For lines, boxes, a note that said small draw, repeat, test. Harry sang a note under his breath. The air at his teeth buzzed. The shard took the tone and vibrated. He kept it low and steady until his lips went numb. He tapped the 4 points of the binding on the stone with 1 finger. The tone carried. The stone cooled under his skin, then warmed, then cooled again. "Stop," Hermione said. He stopped. The shard stayed quiet. Felt tied down not by force but by agreement. He exhaled and let the breath shake on the way out. "Check," Ron said. Harry pressed the flat of his hand to the shard. He called a thread. It rose as a thin gleam and then stalled against the new rule. He pushed. The rule pushed back like a firm palm. He grinned. It hurt his face. "It works," he said. Hermione smiled for real. "Good. Now we find him." They slept in turns. At first light, Hermione's watcher birds came one after another, then stopped as if a hand had swatted them. That meant someone was walking lines and making them mean something different. "Little Hangleton," she said. "The pit near the Gauntland. See the map. The lines bend there. They are not ours." Ron tightened his straps. "We take who?" "People who can move quiet and do not panic," she said. "Neville, Luna, 2 from the team that ran drills after Christmas. Ginny will decide which 2. She will also build a mess behind us so the ICW runs left while we go right." Harry pulled his sleeve down and tied it tight. The skin under the cloth throbbed in time with his pulse. He let it. Pain meant the mark was real. "Plan," he said. Hermione ran it fast and plain. "We scout at midday. We do not draw near the ring. We watch for a field. If he set one, the ground will feel dull. We pull him off the center with a false target. Ron makes the noise. You do not step inside until I say. When you do it with 2 voices on the word and 1 on your name if you forget it." "I will not forget my name," Harry said. "Say it anyway," she said. "Harry," Ron said, grinning. "Idiot," Harry said. And the grin helped. They broke camp. They moved in a thin line. The country near the village was hard. Hedges close, ditches deep. The smell of muck sat heavy in the low bits. The reek of magic came in waves under that. They reached a rise of ground with good sight and no cover and lay flat. The field below had a ring cut into it. The ring looked like a burn that did not smoke. The air inside it wobbled like glass over a candle. The wobble did not give heat. It gave nothing. "That is his shield," Hermione said. "He starved the air." Harry watched. His skin crawled to go nearer. The mark on his arm burned once in a short warning. He swallowed and stayed still. A shape moved near the ring. Tall, thin, white face like chalk in shadow. He lifted a wand. 3 Death Eaters brought a crate and set it down and backed away, careful, heads low. "Bait," Ron said. "Or power," Hermione said. "We do not touch it." Harry pressed his forearm into the ground until the sting became a steady note. He spoke low. "We make him look up. We pull him to the rim. We give him a reason to leave the lid," Hermione said. Noise on the far hedge. A flash that looks like the thing he hates. "Me," Harry said. "Yes," she said. But not you. They pulled back to a copse and met Neville and Luna in the shade. Neville carried a coil of wire and a sharp look. Luna had a small sack on her hip and hay in her hair like she had been in a loft and did not mind. Ginny switched the path at the post, Neville said. 3 ICW went left. 2 Ors went to the station. 1 Unspeakable went into the wine shop and asked about corks as if corks record crimes. Luna smiled at that. He bought 2 and did not look at the price. That is a tell. Ron clapped Neville on the shoulder. Good to see you. Good to be useful, Neville said. Hermione set them in places with quick hands on sleeves. Luna, you run the charm that looks like the flare but is not. Neville, you string the line on the hedge and lift it when I tap. Ron, you shout at the exact wrong time so he looks where we want. Harry, you do nothing until I say. Harry nodded. He did not argue even in his head. The new mark helped. It was a rule he could feel, not a voice telling him to be smart. They moved. The ground ate sound. Birds stayed gone. The ring in the field seemed to pull the color out of things. Even the thorns looked gray. Luna slipped along the ditch and set her little charm in a fork of branches. It looked like a glass bead. It looked harmless. She dusted her hands. Ready. Hermione touched Harry's sleeve. Breathe. He did. The pull pressed against the new mark and settled. He tasted metal and old rain. He set his teeth and waited. Hermione tapped twice. Neville lifted the wire. Ron stood on the bank and hurled 1 word across the field with a voice that could reach a Quidditch pitch. Coward. He carried. It landed. Voldemort turned. The white face tipped. The mouth thinned. Luna flicked her wrist. The glass bead cracked with a clean snap. Light rose, not bright, but true. The exact color of Harry's first flare in the room of requirement. The sound was right too. A thin, high whine in the teeth. Voldemort moved. He did not step out of the ring. He leaned toward the rim and lifted his wand. The air inside the circle shivered and thickened like jelly poured but not set. He threw a black lash. It hit the light and ate it. The wine died at once. The feel of the field did not change. Field holds, Hermione said. Good. Again. Neville hauled the wire. Thorns rattled. Ron shouted something rude that would have made his mother fling a spoon at his head. Luna broke a second bead. The light rose and died again. The sound bit teeth and left. Voldemort watched with his head turned a little like a bird. Now, Hermione said. Harry, thread only. Touch the rim and pull back. Test. Harry set his hand on the shard and drew 1 line. The mark on his arm burned hot and then level. He let the line float like a hair and drift. It reached the edge of the ring and lay there like a blade on a glass plate. No purchase. He pressed a breath. The ring hissed and pushed the line back. His fingers went numb for a second. Stop, Hermione said. He stopped. The numbness faded. The ache in his forearm stayed. He flexed his hand and swallowed. He starved the air and set a counter, Hermione said. It is not perfect. He can move. That means there are seams. We need one. Ron squinted at the hedges. We can make one. We can shove him into a patch where the ring is thin and pull from there. How? Harry asked. Ron's grin flashed and went. Make him angry at the wrong hedge. They did it again. Luna set a 3rd bead. Neville rattled a line and snapped a stick. Ron shouted a line that sounded like a cheers chant turned inside out. Voldemort shifted to follow sound with wand and scorn. He did not leave the ring. 3rd voice, Hermione said. Mine. She stood. She used the voice she had used on the ICW in the Great Hall and at Slughorn's door and in every corridor where adults thought rules were a wall. Clear. Calm. Sharp. Tom, she said. You are losing. His head snapped at her name for him. The wand tip dipped. The green mask he wore over his anger cracked an inch. He took 1 step. The ring pushed at his calves. He stepped back without meaning to. He hated that. He stepped again, this time with purpose, to prove a point to himself. The field stretched like old glue. It let him go to the lip and no farther. There, Hermione said low. See the dip. Right of the rock. That seam is yours. Quiet, Ron said. Quiet, Harry said. He lifted the line again and touched the thin patch. The push met him, soft in the first second. He twisted the thread like a key in a lock and felt it seat. He did not go through. He did not yank. He held. Voldemort moved his wand. The lash came again, black and mean, hungry to eat anything bright. Harry kept the thread flat. The lash hit the rim and sprayed like oil. It did not cross. Voldemort's eyes narrowed. He lifted both hands and spoke a word that made Ron curse under his breath. The ring thickened. The seam shrank. Back, Hermione said. We made a hole. We do not show him how to fix it. Harry pulled the line back and set it down. His hand shook. Sweat ran. He let it. Hermione gripped his shoulder. We saw enough. He can be moved. He can be reached. We do it tonight. Neville stared at the ring and then at Harry. You look awful. Thanks, Harry said. I feel useful. Luna's eyes were soft. You are steady. Stay that way. They withdrew the same way they came. The sun slid lower and painted nothing because the field ate color. They breathed easier once the hedge hid the ring. Back in the glen, Hermione spread the map and fixed time with a finger. We hit at moonrise. Ginny brings 4. Neville keeps the hedge loud after first contact. Luna does second noise at the far lane. Ron runs the shout. I run the count. Harry, you do not break the seal on the mark until you are inside the seam. Agreed, he said. Eat, Ron said, because it was his job to say it even when no one wanted to. He handed out food. They ate. It sat heavy and good. Harry unwrapped his arm and checked the lines. The edges were red and clean. The salve had done its work. He rewrapped it and tied the knot with his teeth. He closed his eyes and breathed. The voice that was not a voice turned once in the deep part of him. He let it. He did not chase it. He did not beg it. He said the word and gave it offense. Quiet, he said. When the moon lifted, the wind rose with it. The hedges hissed. The pit breathed. The 4 from the DA met them at the lane and slid into place without chatter. Ginny took the slot on Harry's left and did not look at his arm. She looked at his face. He nodded. She nodded back. Second voice, she said. Quiet, he said. Third, Ron said. Quiet. Fourth, Hermione said. Quiet. They split. The plan moved in pieces. The field below hummed. The ring held. It would not hold forever. It only had to hold long enough for 2 kinds of law to meet in the same place, one ugly, one cleaner. Voldemort stood at the center and stared at the lane where noise would come. He thought he could make the world small. He forgot that people do not stay inside circles when someone they love is on the other side. Hermione lifted a hand. Now, she said. The knight answered. The hedge hissed in the wind. Hermione's hand lifted. Now, she said. Neville yanked the wire. Thorns rattled, scritch scritch. Luna cracked her glass bead. A thin wine bit teeth. Pale light rose over the far hedge like heat off stone. At the ring's center, Voldemort turned his white face and listened. He tilted his wand. Black lash snap. Ate the light. The wine died. Again, Hermione whispered. Ron gave the shout that carried over pitches and arguments and Quidditch stands. Coward! A second bead snapped. The same thin flare. The same black lash. The ring held. Air hard and dull. Field starved of anything bright. Seam is there, Hermione said. Eyes tight. Chin toward the gray rock. Right of the stone. It dipped when he leaned. Harry's sleeve tugged on the fresh bandage. The mark on his forearm burned once, warning and permission together. He set 2 fingers on the shard in his palm and drew a thread. Not a blast. A hairline. Second voice, Ginny said from his left. Quiet, Harry answered. Third, Ron said. Quiet. Fourth, Hermione said. Quiet. The thread drifted to the rim, touched the thin spot and skated, glass on glass. He twisted his wrist the way Hermione had drilled. Turn, seat. Don't shove. The thread clicked into the seam like a key settling. The ring pushed back. Cold pressure. He held his breath and not the field. Voldemort's eyes narrowed. He moved to the edge to test the lid he'd made. The ring gave and pushed, like thick jelly in a jar when you set your finger on the top. He hated the give. He hated the push more. Hold, Hermione breathed. Harry held. His fingers numbed. The bandage pulled as his forearm swelled against it. The rune burned to steady, not sharp. "Now," Hermione said. "Draw your door and step." Harry pulled a second thread off the shard. Barely there. He laid it beside the first, turned both, and made a slit the width of his boot. The ring hissed like fat hitting a pan. "Step," Ron said. Harry stepped. Cold climbed his ankle like ice water poured into a boot. He grit his teeth. "Quiet, quiet." 3 voices answered. The field tried to bounce him back out. The rune on his arm anchored. Pain shot to his elbow, hot, honest. He breathed through it and set his other foot inside the seam. The world inside the ring was wrong. Sounds dulled. Color went flat. His skin prickled as if the air stole heat and opinion from it. Voldemort's eyes thinned to slits. "You've brought a trick," Voldemort said. His voice carried like a blade laid on stone. "No tricks," Harry said. His voice sounded normal to his own ears. That helped. "Just rules." Voldemort raised his wand with a grace that said he'd waited years to enjoy this. Green light hit the air crack. The killing curse shot straight, true, mean. Harry didn't move. He could not outrun light. He didn't need to. The jet struck his chest. It met the runic field that clung to him like a tight shirt. Green bled out, fizz into harmless glare. The sound it made when it failed was small. A tired pop. The curse died against a law it didn't understand. Voldemort froze for one heartbeat. Just one. Rage hit his cheeks like a flush seen through chalk. He fired again. The same green. The same tired pop. Nothing. "No." Voldemort hissed, as if the word could reorder the world. "No." Outside the ring, Hermione's hand cut the air. "Stay on the word." "Quiet," Ginny said. "Quiet," Ron said louder, like a rope thrown. Harry tasted metal and winter. The field pressed. The rune held. His ribs hurt under his shirt where the first curse had pushed. He lifted the shard like a heavy coin and traced the 4 points they had practiced. Breath in. Note under his tongue. Galdra's tone, not show. Voldemort slashed Black Whip again. It hit the seam and smeared. The ring bucked. The seam thinned to a thread. Harry kept his hand steady. He did not flood. He did not reach for more because more was how you split stone and friends and sky. He kept the line clean and small. "Horcrux correction," Hermione called, voice sharp, counting beats with her fingers where he could see them. 3, 2, 1. Harry turned the thread 1/4 and set it. It wasn't fire. It wasn't lightning. It was a clean pressure that washed wrongness toward its source. The ground under the rock groaned. Far away, everywhere in him and nowhere. 5 small pains answered like old nails pulled from wet wood. The bond between what was broken and the man in front of him pulled tight, then sagged. The work they'd started at Grimmauld Place finished itself in a blink because it finally had a path to run. Voldemort screamed. Not loud. Not performative. A raw, human sound like a piece of himself had been removed without consent. He staggered, face open with animal fear. He had thought the ring would make him king. The ring made him a man with nothing left to hide inside. "You are not death," Harry said. "You are a man with a knife." Voldemort threw that knife. A cutting hex fast enough to shave hair without touching skin. Harry clipped it with a flat, short push of air thud, like slapping a plate off a table. The hex skidded sideways and chewed a furrow in the dead ground. Harry's arm shook. Pain in his mark burned heavy and steady. Good. Alive. Present. He kept the note going and raised a second, tighter one, a harmony just under it. 2 keys. 2 laws. Outside, Neville rattled the wire on the hedge again. Luna broke another bead. Ron yelled a fresh insult that would have lost the Gryffindor table 10 points. Ginny didn't say anything. She watched Harry's eyes and breathed with him even at a distance. Voldemort drew a circle in the air, old magic, older than he liked to admit, and threw it like a net. The ring thickened with him. The net washed over Harry and tried to grab the line out of his hand. "Quiet!" Hermione snapped. "Quiet!" Harry said through his teeth. He let the net pass and refused it his name. It had nothing to hold on to. He changed the note. He sang lower. He touched the shard to his palm and let the new rune on his arm bite down. A clean, white pain shot up into his shoulder. He wrote it. He aimed the line not at the body in front of him, but through it, to the place the soul had been pretending to live in pieces. No Latin, no pretty words. He just said what he wanted. Return, Harry said. The field convulsed. The ring tried to collapse. The seam tried to seal. Voldemort's body jerked like a puppet on a tight string. Far away, the last wrong anchors, thin residue, scraps of him stuck to places and objects that had stopped biting back. Slid. Not shattered. Slid. The way blood flows back when you let go of a wrist. The way tide leaves a beach even if it wanted to stay. Back toward the root. Back toward the only place it could belong. Voldemort felt it. He felt himself being made whole and mortal in the same breath. He howled. It wasn't a curse. It wasn't a spell. Just a man terrified of being only a man again. He swung his wand for Avada Kedavra a third time because habit is stronger than imagination. Green hit Harry's chest. Pop. Nothing. Stop, Harry said. And he meant it like a teacher who will not repeat himself. He drew the final line. Small. Straight. Clean. He didn't aim at skin. He aimed at the wrongness that had defined a life. The bolt that left the shard wasn't lightning. It was a bar of clear force with a line of tone through it you could feel in your teeth and bones. It struck Voldemort's center chest. Thunk. Like a door shutting. No smoke. No gore. No drama. The man jerked once, eyes wide and present for the first time in years, and then he was gone. Not blown apart. Not thrown. Gone the way a broken rule gets erased from a blackboard when a hand wipes it. Silence hit the field like snow. No wind. No birds. No breath. Harry's knees buckled. He caught himself on a palm and the edge of his boot. The marked arm screamed hot. He panted. He tasted metal. He said the word even though no one had told him to. Quiet, quiet, came back at once, for voices in different places, heavy with relief and fear and wonder. The ring fell in on itself with a soft, flat sigh. The dull air broke. Cold slid off Harry's skin. Sound returned in layers. Hedge hiss, a rook's harsh caw. Someone sobbing on the far side of the lane. Death Eaters ran. Two dropped wands and went to their knees as if sitting down after a long march. One screamed aimless threats at the hedge and then fell over when Neville clotheslined him with wire. Ginny reached Harry first. She didn't care about mud. She knelt, hands on either side of his face, eyes locked. Still you, still me, he said, and it wasn't clever. It was true. She kissed his forehead once. Good. Breathe. He breathed. He couldn't stop shaking. He didn't try. The rune throbbed dull now. Pain turned from knife to bruise. Ron slid in on his other side and put a hand on his shoulder. He squeezed once. No speech. No joke. Just weight and heat. Hermione stood between Harry and the rest of the field like a quiet wall. Her gaze swept the edges for a second strike that didn't come. She rubbed the back of her wrist under her nose and blinked hard. Document, she said, voice thick. Then we move. The first arrivals from the castle hit the lane in a cluster. McGonagall at the point, Dumbledore steady at her shoulder, the iron-haired ICW delegate with two aides, and a trail of Aurors who were already speaking over one another. Croaker appeared like a stain where shadow thickened. He stared at the circle where no body lay. His mouth did not move. Kingsley stepped to the front and lifted his hand for silence. He didn't get it. The ICW which slapped the nearest table of reality and got the hall's attention last time. Out here she used her voice and it cut. Stop! Noise dropped. Dumbledore's eyes found Harry. He took in the mud, the shaking, the silence where a monster had been. The clean ring collapsed into dead grass. He inclined his head, just a fraction, to a student who had done a job adults thought they owned. Report, McGonagall said, crisp. Hermione didn't look at the titles. She spoke for the record. Field, anticosmic, dulling. Seems, variable, located at the right of the center stone. Method, thread draw, no flood. Horcrux correction. Reintegration under clean law, not shattering. Final strike. Cedar focus, narrow, non-destructive to ground and bystanders. Outcome: Voldemort metaphysically erased. No body. Witnesses present. One of the ICW aides scribbled so fast his quill squealed. Croaker finally spoke. You have removed an object of study. Harry laughed once. It hurt. You're welcome. Kingsley closed his eyes for a breath and opened them. We will need to verify. No, the iron-haired witch said. We will need to accept that a child closed a war without setting the countryside on fire. We will need to adjust. Dumbledore put his hand, old and steady, on top of his wand. You will also need to leave this field while children catch their breath. Croaker looked at the seam where Harry had stepped. He lifted his hand as if to touch air that wasn't there. He dropped it. What does it cost? He asked without looking at Harry's face. The mark. Pain, Harry said. Time. A limit I chose. Croaker's head turned a fraction. He looked like a man who had just realized a door he wanted would always be locked to him. He bowed a millimeter to the ground, not to any person. Noted. McGonagall started ordering practicals. Stunners only. Bind those who surrender. No gloating. Madame Pomfrey to the hedge. You! She pointed at Ron. Stop grinning like that or you will sprain something. Ron tried to stop. Failed. Tried again and got it. Ginny helped Harry sit on the low side of the ring. Hermione cleaned the bandage without peeling it. Ron put a sandwich in Harry's good hand. He ate because she looked like she would argue if he didn't. Dumbledore stepped close and lowered his voice. You made a hard choice, Simple, he said. It didn't feel simple, Harry said. It felt like bleeding in the right direction. That is what most simple things feel like, Dumbledore said, eyes tired and kind. He squeezed Harry's shoulder once. Light. The iron-haired witch came and crouched, knees popping. I am not here to arrest you, she said before anyone could bristle. I am here to say 3 things on behalf of the Confederation. 1. Acknowledgement that your use of extra Midgardian forces did not escalate collateral harm. 2. Recognition that our treaties make no sense if we pretend the 9 realms are bedtime stories. 3. Request, no invitation, for you to serve as an informal liaison while we try to make the rest of our laws not embarrass us. Harry's jaw clenched. Ginny's hand squeezed his. Hermione's look said we discussed this possibility. We'll set terms. Ron's grin faded to something sober. What does liaison mean? Harry asked. You say no to bad ideas before we bake them, the witch said. You tell us when our questions are stupid. You help us build a class no one wanted to build 20 years ago. Ancient runes that aren't just language. Basic cedar literacy for those who will never touch it but need to know what it does to a room. Emergency doctrine for candles out events. You make sure your new rule, quiet, becomes a habit outside your friends. Harry took a breath. I am not a weapon, she snorted. No. You are a boy we would like to not turn into one. He nodded once. I'll help. On terms. School first. People before diagrams. And no one takes me to the Vale and calls it research. Croaker's mouth twitched. That door will stay shut, he said. It sounded like his own teeth hurt, saying it. Kingsley stepped in. And I will make sure no one writes a net under your carpet again. Harry met his eyes. Kingsley didn't look away. Good, Harry said. Because next time I will throw you out a window and catch you at the last second just to make the point. Kingsley's laugh was one breath. Fair. Weeks turned into a thin, raw spring. Hogwarts roofs held. Students slept through the night again. The prophet printed fewer lies and then, very slowly, a few hard truths. Trials began for the ones who wore skulls when it was easy and kept them on when it wasn't. The ICW published a short, tight charter on cosmic interactions and Midgardian duty. It used small words on purpose. Hermione annotated the margins with worse ones and sent the notes back. They thanked her and removed the nonsense. Ancient runes got a second track. Not language, law. Older students learned to map a room for seams. Younger ones learned to say the word before shouting. Flitwick made a dueling drill called No Flood, and failed half the class on the first go because they tried to be impressive. By week 3, they stopped trying to be impressive and started trying to stay alive. It worked better. Harry slept in his own bed. He woke shaking some nights. Ginny woke him and made him drink water and say the word. He did. Quiet. It helped in his chest and throat even when his hands still trembled. He met twice with the ICW witch in Kingsley in a small, ugly room with a bad teapot. He said no to 3 ideas, yes to 1, and asked Hermione to 5. He refused 2 interviews and gave 1 to McGonagall in her office with the window open and no quills allowed. She wrote what she liked in clean sentences and did not put a headline on it. Croker sent a note on heavy paper. We have shut the observation chamber related to the archway. It didn't say sorry. It didn't need to. Hermione filed it and wrote, hold them to this at the top. Ron drew a small skull on the bottom and crossed it out. Dumbledore moved slower. He taught better. He stopped hoarding as if telling the truth would drain him. He started handing maps to other hands before his legs gave out on a staircase. Creatures stopped muttering the house into uglier shapes. He cleaned the kettle until it gleamed and sometimes said blessings at the end of a sentence and looked embarrassed half a second later. The rune on Harry's arm healed to a thin, pale mark you would miss unless you were looking. It itched when storms rolled in. It hurt when he tried to lie to himself. He liked that. Not everything was fixed. The ministry passed a stability measure. That was really 3 different committees arguing. 2 old laws got dusted off to make new dead ends. A few people in high collars tried to pretend nothing had happened because pretending was easier than admitting they'd been wrong. Harry learned to say, no, try again, at tables where adults usually heard their own voices. He kept his hands flat. He did not raise his tone. He didn't need to. He had friends who would do that for him. At the Burrow in late spring, he stood by the sink and watched steam rise off plates while Ron dried and Ginny bumped him with her hip until he moved aside. Hermione argued with Mr. Weasley about sockets. Mrs. Weasley cried at odd hours and then laughed. Things like that meant the world was still the world. On a gray afternoon, the ICW which slid a single folder across the table in the bad teapot room. You should see this, she said. Then you should tell us how alarmed we should be. Harry opened it. No theater. Just 3 photographs and 2 short reports. Photo 1. A scorched line across a Swedish forest that ran in a straight band and melted snow to dirty glass. No footprints. No tracks. A smell report typed in the margin. Sulfur/ash/cold like iron. Photo 2. A fisher's phone picture of light over the Norwegian Sea. Banded, wrong, not Aurora. And an old rune cut into a rusted buoy that hadn't existed last week. Photo 3. A dead hillside in Iceland with hoof prints that were too big for any known animal. Each sinkhole rhymed with frost even in weak sun. The reports used simple sentences. People had learned. Energy signature similar to Bifrost flare amplitudes. Not identical. Vector inbound. Witness described a man of smoke and a crown of sparks. 3 small fires lit themselves and then went out when there was no air left to eat. Harry's stomach went tight. The rune on his arm tingled. He put 2 fingers on it and pressed until the buzz steadied. Jotunheim, he said. Maybe Muspelheim. Maybe both. If so, they didn't come as a parade. They came as scouts. Kingsley swore softly. The ICW which didn't. What do we do? She asked. Don't panic, Harry said. Don't lie. Don't go alone. Teach the word to more than 6 students in a castle. And if something steps through a door and looks at your house like a puzzle, do not bring me a camera. Bring me a rope and 4 people who know how to hold one end. The witch nodded. Write that down, she told her aide. All of it. Harry closed the folder. He felt tired the way you feel after running and not before. He also felt steady, like the ground under him had decided to stay. I'm not leaving, he said. Not yet. I'll help from here. Emissary, the witch said, almost wry. Harry, he said. Ginny met him at the top of the stairs outside the bad teapot room with her hands in her sleeves and her hair pulled back. She could always tell. What's the face? New work, he said. Big? She asked. Maybe, he said. Loud later. Quiet first. She tucked herself under his arm without comment and they walked the corridor. The windows let in a thin light. The flagstones clicked under their shoes. It was a good, ordinary sound. They stopped at a landing that looked over the grounds. fields, hedges, a line of dark trees where spring moved slow. Say it, she said, because habits made scaffolds when the world grew new. He smiled a little. Quiet, she breathed with him. Quiet. He looked out across a world that kept trying to end and then didn't, because people put their hands on it and said no. He didn't feel like a god. He didn't want to. He felt like a boy with a scar and a mark and a word and a handful of friends who would hold the rope if he slipped. That would do. Later, in a room with maps and bad tea, he opened the classified report again and underlined a single line so the future wouldn't miss it. Vector inbound. He capped the pen. He stood. The watch has begun.